Big 12 Today with Ari and James. Monday through Friday, 8A to 11A Eastern Time. Your home for all things Big 12.
A Fanatic Friday here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Off we go. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. That man is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Anthony Smith is our video producer for Big 12 Studios. T-Chains with a Z, Taman Turner, is producing and engineering on the audio side. Barrett Brooks will be our guest in this first hour. The former Kansas State and Super Bowl champ, played offensive tackle back in the 90s, spent over a decade in the NFL, won his Super Bowl with the Packers, or was it the Steelers, Taman?
The Steelers.
Thank you. It was the Steelers.
I'll have to check and see if he was actually on that team.
He was definitely on that team. He showed me his ring.
Got it.
We've done several games together. It's...
Oh, best friends club over here.
Yeah, BFFs. It's popping. Ari's got his KU Blue on today because the team that we highlight, our Road to Arlington series, which is just awesome. Man, I love researching these teams and figuring out the trap game and the biggest three-game stretch and the biggest gamble and question mark, and we highlight the Kansas Jayhawks today.
I'm wearing it for both the fact that we're doing the Road to Arlington and the big weekend for KU baseball. Got a win last night. The semifinals now includes the top 4 seeds in the Big 12, so no doubt this year, with upsets ablaze across all tournaments, it seems like, the top 4 seeds left in baseball. So no doubt about who those top 4 teams are in the Big 12.
Were you nervous last night? That was not exactly a no-sweat bet for KU.
Yeah, you kind of you look up, it's 7-1, you're like, oh, nice. It's good for them to take care of business in a quarterfinal matchup. And then you look up again, you're like, 7-7. But it's a resilient team. And Baylor was playing for their lives, right? Trying to stay alive. And so it was a really good matchup last night. But, yeah, Baylor came back down 6-0 and then 7-1, tied at 7-7 in the 9th inning after getting 4 runs in the 8th. And then Kansas walks it off in the 10th inning.
KU just doesn't like the desert. They're 2-8 all-time at Surprise Stadium.
Huh. I mean, the all-time record probably indicates something deeper than
Dating
that.
back to the 1930s.
They just won a conference championship in baseball for the first time since 1949.
10 out of 10 on the text last night, though. Very well done. The tone is sometimes a little off, but it was very clear that there was a dash of sarcasm sprinkled in. You seasoned it with the initial KU is melting down, and then the bounce-back text of, oh, wait, never mind, here's what happened. It was very well played.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I spent last night wheeling around my wife. She got the boot. The stress fracture is real. It's had a huge impact on my life, and the recovery time, by the way, is 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow. Good luck with that.
Rolled her around the house in an office chair.
Interesting.
Last night. Gave me a list of things that she needed me to do for her, just things that I needed to get for her to get settled on the couch. Had me running around the house like I was training for the circus. It was so much. I could not believe it.
There are a lot of times where I feel like you're training for the circus.
Mentally, it's 24/7. It never stops. Physically, that's a different story.
Yeah, no, an office chair, that is definitely just like a wheelchair. It basically is the same thing.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So I was her DoorDash delivery guy. I was driving all over town. I had to get cookies, go to the books. There's so many post
How'd
office.
she tip?
Not well.
Not well.
Actually, really well. Yeah.
That was a quick change.
No, I'm saying.
Went from not well to really well very quickly. How well was that tip? Was it a $100 tip on a...
Yeah, thousands.
Thousands?
Thousands, yeah.
Wow.
The Batcats, they got eliminated. They lost to West Virginia 4-2 last night. Hell of a run. Hell of a run for the Cats.
I held out hope. This was a down year for a K-State program that's pretty consistently, in the top half of the league and a tournament team. I expect them to be back next year.
What does back look like? Tournament team?
Tournament team, yeah.
Tournament team, that feels right.
Yeah. I'd bet on Kansas State baseball to be a tournament team more than I would Kansas State basketball.
For next year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Casey Alexander, and he was with you guys. The one day that I take off, we get K-State's new men's basketball.
Technically it was 2, but yes.
Just super excited to talk to, and you guys schedule them when I'm gone. That's cool.
Technically it was Thursday, Friday last week, but who's counting?
Not all low blow. And we've got a 3-day weekend because just kind of hit me right now that Monday's Memorial Day.
Yes. Kids are out of school. Today's the last day of school, certainly for our school district.
Mm-hmm.
I say our because our kids are in the same school district, in the Richardson ISD.
You guys got big plans for the weekend?
No, God, no. No.
Your weekends are like full throttle. You've got camping trips. You always have some big extravaganza going on, or you have this.
Well, my sister is driving in town from Houston. My oldest niece is, I think I've talked about this, pretty high-level softball player on the, whatever the AAU equivalent would be in softball.
How old?
So she is sophomore in high school.
Is she getting scholarship looks? D1 looks? I don't know when that starts for softball.
I think just some small offers from like Oklahoma and Texas.
Oh,
no, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
No, I think so. If she wants to, she can play. I'm not sure how high level it is. I think at this point it's more of like the really smart schools, which is great, and hopefully she gets that opportunity. But yeah, she's coming in town for a softball tournament. It's crazy. Like, she sent me the schedule. It's like, yeah, there's 4 games on Saturday, and then if they win this, there'll be 3 games on Sunday. And it's like, wow. Like, it's just like wall-to-wall, like be there at 7:30 in the morning on Saturday, and you're there until like 11 o'clock at night.
That's a full day.
That's a full weekend.
That's a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a really tough time when it comes to like the Olympic sports, identifying talent. Like when we go to these youth basketball tournaments, I can see a first grader and be like, that dude's going to be starting at Texas Tech, running the point in about a decade. Keep an eye on him. Number 1 in green.
I'm not sure how your scouting career would go.
But when it comes to
James, can't miss first grader. I'm telling you, got to offer this kid. Offer him now.
I was ready to offer him on the spot on behalf of Grant McCaslin.
You called Casey Alexander. You're like, listen, he's in first grade, but he's gonna sprout. He's gonna grow.
I don't care if he ends up 5'8". The kid's got sick handles. And they're only going to get better. But yeah, softball and soccer. I had a buddy of mine who saw that I was in Houston calling a basketball game this year, and he hits me up, and I hadn't talked to him in months, but he goes, hey, you know my daughter? I'm like, yeah. Like, watched her grow up. He's like, yeah, she's playing soccer at Houston. I was like, what? It's like, I knew she was good, but I had no idea.
You did not identify her talent.
Did not identify the talent there. Big swing and a miss.
We got to take a swing at Steve Sarkisian here.
Yeah, you know who's also really bad at identifying talent? That was my segue, okay?
Well, he's actually not bad at it, but the issue with it is he's not great at then developing that talent to make deep runs in the college football playoff. No, that's not it. He develops. He's just bad at decision making.
I don't even know if he develops.
Yeah, he might not.
Like
Arch Manning hasn't really developed.
Exactly. They get these 5-star recruits, and then they don't get any better. And some of them transfer out, like a wide receiver who's headed to Colorado. So this is at SEC spring meetings, which are just wheels off. Big 12 spring meetings are next week. We're going to be there talking with a lot of coaches and ADs.
Well, to be fair, what Sark said was at the Houston, the Texas Longhorn booster group in Houston.
Okay. So his very specific, this wasn't the spring meetings comments?
No.
Because I've seen a lot from Georgia, and Lane Kiffin's on one right now. But anyways, so Sark, head coach at Texas, says there's a team in our state in another conference with a schedule that I would argue if I played with our 2s and 3s, we could go undefeated, and they'll probably make the college football playoff this year.
Yeah. This was per Anwar Richardson from orangebloods.com. And, yeah, this was at the Houston Boosters meeting in Houston. And, you know, it's sort of funny because, I mean, Texas entered 2025 as the consensus preseason number 1. Many expected them to win a national championship. And, meanwhile, it's that Texas Tech team he's referring to that won the conference and played in the college football playoff quarterfinals. Texas, meanwhile, finished tied for 5th in the SEC. You know, Sark has a long history of saying some outlandish and crazy things to boosters, dating back to when he was intoxicated at USC and said some things about how much other teams in the Pac-12 suck. And then, of course, there was the most recent comments last week about basket weaving at Ole Miss, talking about how difficult it is to get guys to transfer to Texas because of the stringent academics at Texas, which, I mean, you know, if you have the money that you have at Texas and you're recruiting at the level you're recruiting at Texas, you shouldn't really make excuses for anything. And yet all this guy does is make excuses. My God, he's full of them.
And we're pretty sure he's talking about Texas Tech. Maybe he's talking about SMU. No, it's definitely Tech.
Yeah, I think it's Tech.
It's definitely Tech.
It's the program that he's continually running into when it comes to recruiting, which is something he's not used to. So it's bothersome to him because, you know, a guy like Felix Ojo, who could be starting at tackle for Texas Tech this year as a true freshman, is a guy that he really wanted. So suddenly a program that didn't really register for Texas is starting to really register in a way that means that they're on the radar for Texas in a way they never have been. You know, it's funny, too, that he brings up the schedule part because Texas Tech finished ahead of Texas in every credible metric that even adjusts for schedule. SP Plus, which accounts for schedule. Texas Tech finished 4th nationally. Texas finished 17th. Any other metric that takes schedule into account ranked Texas Tech far ahead of Texas. So, I mean, not only is he talking out of his ass, he's, again, making excuses for why his teams continually underperform. And, I mean, look, let's not mince words here. Like, that Ohio State game that Texas lost in the semifinals, the year that Ohio State won the national championship in Arlington at the Cotton Bowl, that game was completely mismanaged down the stretch by Sark.
Yeah.
Like, he was at the doorstep of scoring. Brilliant Steve Sarkisian, the offensive mastermind, and the play calling that he had in that final series that turned over on downs and gave the ball back to Ohio State to win the game was his doing. Sark is a great starter coach. Like, he was able to get Texas back on the rails because Texas, for multiple decades in the Big 12, was off the rails. They went 20 years without having an offensive player as a first-round pick. 5-star after 5-star after 5-star, from Vince Young to Bijan Robinson, 20 years without having a first-round pick on offense. They were completely off the rails at the end of the Big 12 tenure. And finally get back on the rails with Sark, you know, after a 5-7 season in his first year in which they got boat raced by Kansas, but I digress, and gets them back on the rails. They win the Big 12 championship on their way out, but that's as far as he's going to get them. He can't win big games because he mismanages those. And so he'll continually go with the podium and have this large bravado and make excuses and do everything else, but, like, cool. I'll bet a lot of money that Sark never wins a national championship in Texas because he can't win big games. He's basically James Franklin.
Yeah, that's a really good comp. And just a quick reminder for Sark and Texas fans, T-Chains. From 2010 to 2022, Texas went a combined 60 and 61 in Big 12 play, below 500.
The same conference he's now referencing.
And Texas starters, by the way, who spent the early part of their career in the Big 12, went 17 and 10 in the Big 12, 7 games above 500.
You know, when Sark was hired, James, he had a message of all gas, no brakes.
Yeah.
I think it's more all hat, no cattle. if you catch my vibe. I mean, CNBC valued Texas's athletic department at $1.48 billion in 2025. Most valuable athletic program in all of college sports, overtaking Ohio State. No program in the country has more resources and more revenue and does less with it. Sark, by the way, against teams that finish in the college football playoff top 10, he's 2-9 in his time at Texas in those games.
Yeah. And just bitching about not making the playoff is hilarious to me when you lose to Florida.
Yeah.
29-21, who had to fire their coach because he was so bad. This has been the worst stretch for Florida football, maybe all time. And then he bounced back. He beat Oklahoma, even though they didn't have a quarterback. Then had that barn burner on the road at Kentucky, 16-13 in overtime. Back-to-back overtime wins against Kentucky and Mississippi State. I hope at the Big 12 spring meetings next week that Joey McGuire when he sits down with us, just says, like, they could just, these SEC guys just say the most outlandish things with absolutely zero context.
Yeah.
Or facts or data to support what they're saying.
It's delusional. It's you're not really paying attention to how the world's going right now.
Yeah. Joe McGuire can just sit down with us and just say, we just piss excellence, the Big 12. That's what we do.
Everything we do.
Just piss excellence.
Yeah, and maybe the most important metric of all of them is the 9 draft picks that Texas Tech just had to the 6 for Texas and the 0 first-round picks that Texas had this past year.
None. And James Blanchard, the Texas Tech general manager, he clapped back on Twitter with that exact same nugget. NFL draft picks, college football playoff appearance.
And again, SP Plus accounts for your schedule. So this easy schedule that Texas Tech feasted on was better than Texas by a pretty wide margin here. Texas Tech's wins were far more impressive. They were 4th in SP Plus, which accounts for your schedule. Texas was 17th. So there's really no credible metric that suggests what Steve Sarkisian is saying is right. And even if in a fantasy world in which they played a tougher schedule, like you mentioned with Kentucky and Mississippi State, they're still better than you head-to-head. In fact, Texas's offensive line was so garbage last year. I would have loved to see David Bailey and Arello Height and Lee Hunter and that group on the defensive line go up against that offensive front. They would have had Arch Manning in a body bag.
Well, in Texas Tech has tried to schedule Texas.
Well, of course. And Texas is not going to schedule Texas
right.
Tech. So they're going to talk their smack from their penthouse.
And then go hide in the bushes.
While constantly underachieving relative to their budget. They have it's incredible how little they win despite having all of the money. We talk all the time about how much money you need and the price to do a business. Like, they have it all.
And for decades. They've had it for decades. This isn't a new thing. The SEC spring meetings are next week. But just the narrative and what they're selling, Lane Kiffin, Sark, et cetera, the Georgia AD, like, the SEC went from having this advantage in the college football playoff from being battle tested to now, well, we're not winning games. It's now a disadvantage from beating each other up, right? Like, both things can't be true. Make it make sense in my brain. And then the last nugget is from the Georgia the Georgia president, who just thinks that you can just take the SEC championship game and call it the national championship and it's all good.
If he says it, it must be true. Well, what's his quote? Can you read his quote?
He's against the 2014 playoff. He said, I can't imagine the ratings if that happened. Georgia-Alabama SEC championship last year had ratings through the roof. Imagine if that had been for the national championship. I think our fan base is strong across the country. I think we have tremendous interest in a situation of that nature. But again, I'm going to be listening to the commissioner.
Yeah.
Just make Georgia-Alabama the natty every year.
Well, and basically his argument appears to be, based on the quote you've just read, that not to decide it on the field, but rather in the television ratings.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, we should hold our own national championship amongst SEC teams because of our television ratings.
Because people will watch it.
Because that's the one metric we're winning at right now, and it's not national championships or even national championship appearances.
Like, I hope, I pray, somebody in the crowd, some reporter, whoever's there at SEC's spring meetings, brings up their college football playoff record. Why aren't you guys winning more games in the playoffs? Collectively, because there's a bunch of you that are getting in, more so than any other conference.
I'm going to start referring to the SEC as blockbuster because, they used to own it, and that was probably because they paid players. Now everybody pays players, and the SEC doesn't have its advantage. Blockbuster.
We are Netflix. We are the Big 12 Conference. Coming up next, he's Ari, I'm James. So who's actually going to pay for a 2014 college football playoff? This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios, powered by Modelo.
Jackson's in first down.
Our Road to Arlington series continues today, powered by Modelo. We'll be answering the biggest question marks, the biggest gamble, the one player they cannot lose, the hidden strength. We'll have some numbers for the Kansas Jayhawks later on. Barrett Brooks is with us here in about 15 minutes, the former NFL and offensive tackle for the Kansas State Wildcats, played back in the 90s, now does work for a local station in Philadelphia, and then in ESPN as an analyst role. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. On Monday, you'll hear from all of our guests that we've had on the program as of late, like Commissioner Brett Yormark, Oklahoma State women's basketball coach J.C. Hoyt, Casey Alexander and Jared Calhoun, the new coaches on the men's side at K-State and Cincinnati, Drew Mestemaker, the number one portal addition in the Big 12, the quarterback at Oklahoma State. So that'll be on Monday's program. But On3 just released their top 100 most impactful college football players for this season. What stands out about that list?
Yeah, so the top 100 list from On3, put together by Clark Brooks. This was released because we are 100 days out from the start of the college football season. And so, I mean, you kind of expect some of these guys at the top, and a lot of times, you know, you find these lists, it's like whatever. Sam Levitt is 8th, by the way, at LSU. I wonder if he'd be top 10 if he were still a Big 12 quarterback.
Where's Arch?
Julian Sayin is 9 from Ohio State. Arch is 10. And this is, I think, where this whole idea that these conferences are just better than the Big 12 because they say so kind of thing comes from, right? So on 3, very much leveraged in on the SEC and the Big 10. So the one that caught my eye was Lenora Sellers at 22, the South Carolina quarterback, 22. So I just picked out any run-of-the-mill Big 12 quarterback, Noah Fifita. Okay, let's just compare statistics between Lenora Sellers from 2025 and Noah Fifita from 2025. Lenora Sellers completed 61% of his passes, and I'm being kind, at 60.8, for 2,400 yards and 13 touchdowns, along with 8 interceptions. Noah Fifita completed 64% of his passes for 3,200 yards, so 800 more yards, 29 touchdowns, 16 more touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, 2 less interceptions. Now you could say, well, Lenora Sellers is more athletic, and you might be right, but Sellers had 270 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. By the way, Fifita had 114 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
What were Sellers' yards and touchdowns to interceptions?
2,400, 13 and 8. Fifita at 3,200, 29 and 6.
Okay.
And let's just go back to 2024 for S&Gs. So Sellers completed 66% of his passes. I'm being nice, 65.6 for 2,500 yards. He's consistent, and then he's barely cracking 2,500 yards each year. 18 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Fifita had a really bad year in 24, if you recall, and Arizona was bad. Fifita completed 60.5% of his passes, so not great. 2,900 yards, so still had more yards throwing, nearly 3,000. 18 touchdowns, same amount of touchdowns, and 12 picks. So basically, if you compare his worst year to Sellers' worst year, which was 2024 and 2025, they're at about the same completion percentage. Fifita still threw for 500 more yards. Fifita still had 5 more touchdowns. Now, he did have more interceptions, but the touchdown-interception ratio is basically equal. What are we doing? I don't really understand what make it make sense.
So, Big 12 quarterbacks that had a better year last year than Lenora Sellers. Devin Dampier, Bear Bachmeyer, Avery Johnson, Drew Mestamaker, Brendan Sorsby, Noah Fifita, and I'm only about halfway through the list. That is ridiculous, okay? The comp that I just pulled up, and that's why I asked you about the numbers, because this guy's numbers were almost identical, and he's not even anywhere on this list. DJ Lagway. If DJ Lagway was still at Florida, he'd be in the top 50. Oh, he just had a down year last year, coaching stuff, injuries. He's still a top 50 player. But now that he's at Baylor, is he even in the top 100?
Oh, no.
Not even close.
There isn't a Big 12 quarterback in the top 100.
Not a single Big 12 quarterback.
No. And the majority of players that crack the top 100, according to this list, are Texas Tech players. No surprises there. Terrence Carter Jr. here at 61. Their top one is A.J. Holmes, who's, I believe, top 15.
Nobody in the top 10. I think I saw...
A.J. Holmes is 14. And then you go down, and the next one after Lenora Sellers would be L.J. Martin at 34. Bryce Pollock at 35. Again, wonder what would happen if those 2 players were in the SEC.
Don't forget about that Rutgers wide receiver at 38. What are we doing?
Darian Mensah is 44th. Also had a down year last year, but sure, why not? Howard Sampson cracks 48th on this list. Again, Terrence Carter at 61. I'm looking for Evan Johnson, the corner for BYU, 60. I'm just looking for any other non-Texas Tech players to crack this list. So, yeah, again, just we don't have to deep dive the list. The one that stood out was you have Lenora Sellers at 22. Like, give me the season where Lenora Sellers is better than most quarterbacks in the Big 12. I'm not really sure what we're ranking this on, but again, it just kind of speaks to how much the narrative around the Big 12 is trash, simply because all of these lists from national publications like On3 or 24/7 or the other ones just consistently rank randomly SEC or Big 10 players ahead of Big 12 players despite any stats or argument to the contrary.
I don't know that I'd have Lenora Sellers in my top 5 Big 12 quarterbacks list.
No. It's crazy.
Oh, and by the way, Texas, there are Texas players littered all over this list, including like 3 in the top 10. So no reason why Texas shouldn't run the table, especially when you look at their schedule this year. Like they play Ohio State, but then their SEC games, their toughest road games are at LSU, at Texas A&M. Those are both super late in the year. They get Ole Miss at home. They get Florida at home. They play at Missouri, at Tennessee. It's ridiculous. All right, so the article that we're going to touch on today, who's paying for this 2014 college football playoff? And we don't really know at this point, but I think that our guy at The Athletic, Stuart Mandel, brings up some really intriguing questions and notes that with a 2014 playoff, like Fox wants in on the playoff, right? ESPN's pushing back. We've documented that at length. But Fox didn't make a bid for the last time the college football playoff rights came on the market. ESPN was the only bidder. They paid $1.3 billion annually to re-up through 2031, 2032. So the premise of this article is that, yeah, the Big Ten wants the 2014 playoff. Fox wants a piece of it, but we don't really necessarily know how much that piece would be. And it just adds another layer to the uncertainty surrounding the whole thing when it comes to what the format looks like. Is it 23 at-large and one group of 6? How many teams get automatic bids? But how much of that piece is Fox willing to take on or wanting to take on?
Well, and you know, I mean, to your point, and this is what Brett Yormark told us this week on the show, it basically is the College Ball Playoff Management Committee has to get to work in terms of figuring out what the money looks like.
Well, I read this morning, and again, you know, no different than fans, that Tony, coming out of the spring business meetings, referenced that it's 24-0. Okay, that's effectively what he said. And, you know, Greg, obviously, you know, he's got to do what he needs to do and what's in the best interest of the SEC, and I'm sure he's going to have those conversations next week at his spring business meetings. You know, candidly, you know, from where I sit, the management committee of the CFP just needs to roll up our sleeves and do the work. Because there's a lot of work that needs to be done around 24. You know, the unintended consequences of going 24, what does that mean? You know, I've said before, what are the economics? Can we start modeling what those look like? Because if you go to 24, you get rid of your champ game. And the champ game for the Big 12 is very valuable, okay? And I'm not in this deal just to stay whole.
Right.
I want there to be additive revenue and additive economics that we can all share in, okay? So we have to do the work. Again, the concept of 24 I like a lot, but you got to roll up your sleeves and do the work and make sure it proves out.
All right, so if the Big 12 for S&Gs, let's just say the Big 12 makes $50 million on the Big 12 championship game. Again, it's half of what the SEC reportedly makes in the SEC championship, which is $100. Right, so what Yormark is saying there is you got to put pencil to paper to figure out not just are we going to make $50 million as a conference from the expanded playoff, but more than that. It's got to be really worth the while in order to get rid of it. And same with the SEC at $100 million. So that's where the rubber meets the road here on this discussion on the 2014 playoff, is who's going to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And when the college ball playoff was up, as referenced by Stu Mandel in this article, Fox didn't bid on it.
Right. So when the commissioner talks about modeling the economics and modeling what that would look like, that's really important. When conference championship games carry a combined $200 to $250 million in annual revenue, so if you take that away, now Tony Petitti is claiming that having 12 new on-campus first-round games generate about $80 million in gate receipts for those schools. But that still leaves like $120 to $170 million hole that nobody's really dove into how you fill that gap. Does a 2014 model hit that? Fox only aired 3 games with 10 million plus viewers last season. 2 others hit $5 million. Their September schedule has been pretty weak because the Big Ten, those schools don't schedule tough non-conference games. and the ones that they do are on ESPN. So Fox gets in on the Big 12 come league play and does a really nice job. Their coverage is outstanding. I would love to see them have more games, but is it going to carry enough weight to overcome all of the value from the conference championship games that you're taking away? I think the only way that happens is these conferences like the Big 12 or even the ACC, there has to be a guarantee for how many teams they're going to get in the playoff and how much of that pie they're going to receive, right?
Yeah. Let me ask you this question, because this, to me, plays into why I think the Big 12 should actually support a 16-team expanded playoff.
Okay. With automatic bids?
Sure. But I'm just speaking generalities right now. I don't need to get into specifics. But what current network partner leans into the Big 12 more than any others? I'm talking about programming. I'm talking about pregame show.
Football only?
It doesn't matter.
Because the networks that are doing the most with pregame, halftime, postgame features, TNT and NBC.
TNT and NBC. So other than ESPN, who currently has playoff games?
TNT.
TNT.
Sub-licensed through ESPN.
So let's not even get into the Redbird deal, right? Which obviously also plays into the TNT piece. So in a 16-team playoff, who gets more playoff games? TNT. In a 24-team playoff, Fox gets more playoff games. Fox is a current partner with the Big 12, doesn't do the same job as well as ESPN as TNT does. So now let's go to 2030, in a world in which TNT wants an exclusive partnership like ESPN has with the SEC and like Fox has with the Big 10. Is that where they double up with the Big 12, and how much more should the Big 12 be incentivized to do an exclusive deal with a partner that's also in on the playoff to a much larger degree? A 16-team playoff, I think, benefits a really good partner right now for the Big 12 that could become an even better partner for the Big 12.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Really exciting to think about TNT having more games that aren't sub-licensed through ESPN,
correct.
that are TNT, owning and operating and continuing with the coverage that they're giving the league. All right, coming up next here on Big 12 Today, Barrett Brooks won a Super Bowl, played over a decade in the NFL on the offensive line, played at K-State back in the 90s, does work for ESPN. We'll talk with Barrett Brooks after this before we dive into our Road to Arlington series on the Kansas Jayhawks. We are powered by Modelo, the full-time fan, and heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Jackson to the backfield. He'll get the carry. Bounce it left side, and now a big gain across the 40 to midfield, and still going. Possession, Devon Rice's tailback, off play action, over the top, full send, Chase Brown, gone!
Back inside Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Each and every weekday from 8A to 11A Eastern Time, we are your home for the Big 12 Conference. You're watching us on the Big 12 Fast Channel, Big 12 Studios. Our guest this hour is Barrett Brooks, former NFL and K-State offensive lineman. Spent over 9 years in the league, one of the good guys, an analyst for ESPN. Barrett, how are you, man?
Good, James, man. It's been a while, man. We didn't catch a game last year, but, we averaged about 2 or 3 a year the year before, past couple of years, man. So it's good to talk to you again, man.
Yeah, great to see you and catch up. How do you feel about Colin Klein, the new K-State football coach?
I think he's just what the doctor ordered, man. And not to say that I didn't like, what they had last year, but Colin understands what it is to play in Kansas. You know what I'm saying? It's a different type of breed of guy that has come in and bring and recruit guys to Kansas State University. And I really believe he has what it takes to get these guys going and get them going in the right direction. When he left and went to Texas A&M, going to get the coordinator job, I thought that was huge. That was a big hit, especially with the offense, especially how integral, he was with, developing the quarterbacks and things of that nature, man. But him coming back as the head coach, I think it really puts the Kansas State Wildcats in a position they can be very successful.
What are the things that go into how many successful offensive linemen have gone to K-State? What do you think programmatically goes on there that is just so consistent about K-State in terms of offensive linemen?
Well, to be honest, man, there's a lot of big farm guys out there used to going out there and wrestling hogs, and things of that nature. Big farm boys. But I think it's more so. You're in an offense where it's designed to not only run block but pass block, and I think that really helps them out. And then just understanding, I think I was one of the guys that started it. When Snyder came and got me back in 1990, I was the first black offensive lineman to play for Kansas State.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And then we started getting drafted. I got drafted in the second round. Ryan Young got drafted in the second round. I mean, we had a lot of guys come through there that really, took this, to another level because they brought offensive linemen in. They were pretty good athletes, number one, but just nasty, number two. So it just kind of kept things going. I mean, even with this Dallas team, their starting center, BB, he's a great player, and he kind of sets the tone as far as how good you can be from Kansas State and go to the league.
Barrett, when you watch Big 12 offensive linemen now and the NIL and transfer portal and all the top high-end offensive linemen, the narrative is that they play in the SEC or the Big Ten. But we look at this recent NFL draft, multiple first-round NFL draft picks off the offensive line at Utah. Arizona State had one. Texas Tech will have one this year. Is the gap between the Big 12 trenches as big as maybe the public think it is when compared to the other leagues?
Well, it has everything to do with NIL. And at this point, the Big 12 Conference is starting to pay the money, put themselves in a position where they now can go out there and recruit good players. And I think that's what they're doing. They're recruiting good players. And when you go, with the offensive line, in order for offenses to really work these days, it used to be a pass-happy league when you went into, the Big 12. Well, it's changed. Look at Utah. Like you said, both their bookend tackles went in the first round, So they ran the ball consistently, probably 67% of the time. So now you're starting to get that change. What's his name, Max Hanashore?
Yep.
Went first round to the Steelers. He's one of my, day one guys also. So they're just starting to get guys that are athletes, and they're really starting to pay like the SEC schools, are doing now. So the playing field is starting to level out because you can get the same type of NIL deals with the Big 12 guys as opposed to, what you're just getting with the SEC. So I think that's what's leveling things out. They want to compete in the Big 12, and that's the way they're doing it.
Yeah, it's a great point. And you think about Texas Tech adding a 5-star offensive lineman at in Felix Ojo, who could start day one at tackle. West Virginia's talked about Kevin Brown as a high 4-star starting day one at tackle for them as a true freshman. How difficult is that?
It's very difficult, because I had the red shirt. I wasn't strong enough to play really big. It was a Big 8 back when I played Big 8 football. And back then, the Big 8 was a pretty good conference, with Oklahoma being, a national championship type of team, Nebraska being a national championship type of team. So once you start bringing in guys, that are 4- and 5-star recruits, I mean, it really puts you on a map, and plus it gives you an opportunity to start from the very beginning. And that's exactly what's happening. These major, recruits are coming out and seeing that you can go to the Big 12 and get drafted in the first round, and the more and more this happens, it's really gonna take the Big 12 to another level. Like I said, I was at Kansas State, bro, and when Kansas State wasn't cool, man. I was a, I was a 3 or 4 star recruit, but then they started, getting guys like me, over time, and look at the Zach Wiegerts, from Nebraska, guys like that started getting drafted, and then it really put, the Big 8 started to roll too, and finally get up with the ACC and SEC.
Barrett Brooks played in 118 games in the NFL, spent 9 years, spent time mostly with the Eagles, but also the Lions, a couple of games with the Packers, and then wrapped his career with the Steelers, has a Super Bowl ring. Barrett, all this talk about the 2014 college football playoff, are you here for it, or do you like the 12 or 16 team model?
You know what? I want, more teams, the more the merrier. Get a little of these fringe teams in the mix. It gives Notre Dame really an opportunity to be in there. Teams that you really don't, belong to a conference. So, I mean, I enjoy that. More football to me is more the merrier. I mean, the NFL is doing it. They had an extra game, now 17 games. Why not put the playoff system where now you can put quality teams in that were on the fringe and now put them in the mix, and any given Sunday, any given Saturday, you can have an opportunity to win a national championship. So I do like this new playoff system. I do enjoy watching more football, and it puts football past November now for teams that wouldn't necessarily have an opportunity to do that.
Give us a sense of the differences between Bill Snyder and Andy Reid.
The differences?
Yeah.
I think that
you've played for two. I mean, just two. I'm isolating. You played for many more, but two iconic coaches.
Well, I didn't play for Coach Reid, but I was, I left as soon as he got there.
Oh, okay, my bad.
I went to Detroit, so I had, Bobby Ross. But I mean, just even still, looking at how he conducted himself, and I played for great coaches like, I played with, what's his name, from the Steelers. Oh my God, I can't believe
Mike Tomlin.
Coach. What's that?
Cower or Tomlin?
Yeah, Coach Cower.
Yeah.
BC.
Yeah.
I mean, playing with him and understanding how he approaches the game is really, the difference in between, having a guy that can get guys and maximizing their potential. He was able to maximize guys' potential because he was a former player, number one, but he put guys in a position where it wasn't just X's and O's. It's how you approach the game, the mindset, being with them. I won a championship with the Steelers, and being with Cowher, he would have to tell us to slow down in practice. He would have to tell us, hey, chill out. You guys are going too hard, or, you guys are hitting too hard. There was a couple of times where he canceled practice. Look, since you guys went out of practice, we're going to cancel practice. We get off my field. And we as a team would stay out there and kind of finish up practice, by ourselves without the coaches being there. And that was the mindset we had. We won a championship that year also, Super Bowl 40. So, I won a ring there. So it's all together how you approach the game. I had opportunity to play for great coaches. Then, just like with Coach Snyder. Snyder saved my life, man. I was an unruly kid that went to Kansas State. They put a university in the middle of a cornfield. I used to tell people all the time, if your dog ran away 20 miles down the road, you could still see his tail wagging. There was nothing at Kansas State University at the time. You know what I'm saying? We barely had 3 streetlights, But, he was able to bring guys in and really sell them on something that was great. And that's how to be men, how to approach the game. And I think that's the difference between how NIL is affecting guys now and how, and how it was back then. You had to stay at these universities, and he was able to mold me into a man, not just a player, but a man. When my parents dropped me off there, it wasn't a simple fact, that my parents were glad, hey, we're going to give you football shoes, so they didn't have to buy me shoes anymore. That was a big selling point to them, they didn't buy me shoes anymore. But he said, look, I'm going to teach this young man how to be a man. And he definitely did it, He said no ear screws, no earrings, clean shaved, all that stuff was necessary to be on his team. So it really made me adapt to being a better man and being somebody that's disciplined. And I think that's the biggest thing that he offered me and made me a better player because he did that. So when you have a guy that can lead guys in that direction, same thing. Cowher's the same way. He could lead guys and put in their minds that, look, we are tougher than everybody else. 90% of the time we stepped on the field, we felt as though we won, just from just stepping on the field, because we knew we played against the best players in the NFL in practice every day. So when we got to a game, it was easy. So it's just a mindset on how they approach the game. Not necessarily X's and O's, but the mindset of going into a game, understanding that you're better, and, with Coach Schneider, that he's going to will you to be a better man while he's doing it.
Man, I want to hear more about your story, Barrett. How did Bill Snyder save your life, the words you used, and then also, think back, if you were handed a $2 million check to go play college football, how different would that have impacted your life and your time there?
Well, there wasn't no money back then, so
right.
He had to he sold guys on the dream of, all right, I'm gonna make you not only a better man but a better player. He's gonna make sure he brings success to Kansas State University. And that was hard back then. It was the Big 8 conference back then, and it was Kansas State and Iowa State are the two teams nobody knew about. They knew about the other 6 teams, but they didn't know about us. And he was able to conform us and make us, a better team simply because he got guys going in the right direction. I actually quit 3 weeks into camp my freshman year. I quit. I'm like, look, I can't take this. I called my mom. Hey, Mom, send me some money, so I can come home. She said, no, I'm not doing it. Called my dad. He's like, no, I'm not doing it. I called my uncle. He did it. He sent me money for the Greyhound. So I jump on the Greyhound early in the morning. I mean, the Greyhound left at 5:30. And we're on the road going to St. Louis. We're on 70. And as he pulled the bus over. Coach Snyder got in his Cadillac and pulled the bus over on the side of the road. Got on the bus, and the bus driver said, look, I can't do this. This is legal. He said, I got to get my player off the bus. He comes and tells me, Brooks, get your butt off this bus right now. He's a little more animated, a little 4-letter words. And I'm like, look, Coach, you can't be pointing at me like this. I'm no longer, one of your players. He said, get off this bus right now. I told your father I'm going to make you a man. Let's go. Get off the bus. And he cussed me out an hour back down the road. It was just before we got to Topeka.
Wow.
He cussed me out an hour down the road. I got to the stadium. He ran me like, I was throwing up and everything. Stadium stairs, up, downs. And then I went to practice. We finished practice. I went in to eat lunch, had me come out again, and ran me again. Went back in, threw up. I practiced the second practice. After that practice, he made me run again. I ran 3 times and practiced twice. And I think it ran all the gusto out of me of being a troubled kid and made me, understand that this guy's not playing with me. I might as well conform. He kind of, broke me. And once, I was once a Mustang, he broke me. And from that point on, I started to see things in a different direction. This guy didn't have to come get me off the bus. He didn't have to make me become a man. He didn't have to make me do the things that I did. And it really made me get a sense that, all right, he cares enough for me to come get me. So I guess I got to, reciprocate it and be the player that he thinks I can be. So it worked out great for me, worked out great for me. Drafted in the second round to the Eagles, played 12 years, won a Super Bowl. And I, put a lot of that credit, on, God putting this man in my life to get me going in the right direction.
When's the last time you talked to him?
Oh, man, I went back. I called a game there last year. I think it was the third game I played. I called last year, and I was able to sit down and talk to him. And, he's getting up there right now, But it was good to see him, and he still tells you, Barrett, you still got them ear screws in. Take them ear screws out. He's still that type of guy.
Man, that's amazing. Barrett, that might top them all, Bill Snyder stories. Really, really glad you shared that. Great to see you. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll get you on again once we get closer to the year.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on, man. And hey, the Big 12 gonna be all right this year, man. I'm looking at them possibly being in that championship race.
I think so too. Awesome. Thanks, Barrett. Barrett Brooks is our guest here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Played offensive line at Kansas State. Played 9 years and 120-some games in the NFL. Won a Super Bowl. Joining us here on Big 12 Radio. All right, coming up next, we dive into our Road to Arlington series. We do this every day, highlighting a different Big 12 team. Biggest question marks, biggest gamble trap games, biggest games on KU's schedule. The Kansas Jayhawks are the team we highlight. This is Big 12 Radio, exclusively on TuneIn, brought to you by Modelo and watched on Big 12 Studios.
And a potential time
Alongside Ari Timken, I'm James Westling, watching us on Big 12 Studios, the Big 12 Fast Channel, listening to us exclusively on TuneIn, powered by Modelo. We've leaned into the offseason only means research. Offseason optimism is mandatory. It's our Road to Arlington series. We highlight the Kansas Jayhawks today. Biggest question marks, gamble, trap game, biggest game, 3-game stretch to define the season and maybe define Lance Leipold, their head coach's tenure in Lawrence. So, Ari, kick us off. Kansas Jayhawks' biggest question marks.
Yeah, I mean, you got to start with the quarterback room. No proven answer, only questions. Cole Ballard feels like is the favorite to start, despite Isaiah Marshall and Rice transfer Chase Jenkins having a skill set more conducive to the Andy Kotelnicki offense. We'll say, look, Ballard is a guy that has shown he could play. He's had some impressive performances and some spot starts, but yeah, I'd say they have far more questions than answers in the quarterback room after having, a position like that pretty solidified for the last 5 years.
Well stated, and that's my biggest question mark. JD's successor, Jalen Daniels, 6 seasons, 45 starts, almost 10,000 career passing yards, 67 touchdowns. On paper, the second-best quarterback in KU history behind Todd Reesing, and now he's gone. And not really a clear-cut QB1 heading into this offseason. Chase Jenkins was the quarterback at Rice, ran that spread, triple option, didn't attempt a ton of passes. Isaiah Marshall, who I know that, they had he has a really high ceiling, maybe the highest ceiling, but super inexperienced, especially when it comes to like his progressions and processing speed because he hasn't been on the field. And then Cole Ballard, maybe the most experienced in terms of guys that have actually played at Kansas. But I'm with you on the quarterback room. Who's going to be QB1, especially when you have 3 quarterbacks? And coaches will say when you have 3, you don't have 1. So that's my biggest question.
The other one, too, is the roster overhaul. This is kind of brand new for Lance Leipold because, the last few years he's had very few players leave and has not had a ton of turnover. But Kansas has 31 transfers and 12 early enrollees in spring football. They lost 25 players via the portal. So, a lot of unknowns because that level of overhaul of their roster creates a lot of unknowns about chemistry, blocking, snap count sequencing, blitz pickup adjustments. So, and when you factor that in, plus their really difficult early season schedule, this could be a rough year for Lance Leipold and the KU Jayhawks.
All right, biggest gamble when it comes to KU and their offseason.
Yeah, what's interesting is because I think it was hard to identify what a gamble would be, because, and I'll get to this later, Leipold is very much not a gambler, and that's probably a big, issue for him and for this team. But, he kind of just hits it right down the fairway. I don't know that you could say that rehiring Andy Kotelnicki is a gamble. The one I went with is retaining defensive coordinator DK McDonald after a horrible year 1. But even that is, hard to justify. But I'll say this. The Jayhawks ranked near the bottom of the Big 12 in several defensive categories. And, they had some late season collapses in 2025. When you look at that Utah game on Senior Day, just huge defensive breakdowns. So whatever DK McDonald was trying to do defensively just didn't work. KU gave up 28.5 points per game last year, which was 85th in the country. And they gave up over 29 points per game in Big 12 play, including 3 games which they gave up over 40 points. And without Lyric Rawls, with the roster overhaul on the defensive side, you could have brought in a experienced defensive play caller to take over for DK McDonald, who had a really bad year 1 as the defensive coordinator, but they didn't. The gamble here is retaining DK McDonald, but again, not a huge gamble because Lance Leipold is not much of a gambler.
Yeah, my biggest gamble, and I call it a gamble because I think it could go really, really well or really poorly, and that is Dylan Edwards, the running back transfer from Kansas State. KU's entire running back room has been gutted. They had 2 guys graduate, their top 2 rushers, and then running backs 3 and 4 all hit the portal. So in response to that, they brought in 3 portal transfers, guys that have been productive at various stages throughout their career, but the number one headliner is Dylan Edwards, born in Derby, just a stone's throw, a couple hours away from Lawrence. transferring from in-state rival Kansas State. And, like, the talent is real, right? Almost 6 yards per carry throughout the course of his career. Was the bowl MVP 2 years ago at K-State. Shattered a bowl game rushing record. 4-star recruit. But he's been at 3 schools, Colorado, K-State, and now Kansas, after he originally committed to Notre Dame out of high school. And the injury stuff is a gamble because he only played in 4 games and then redshirted the rest of the season. But also, there was some locker room stuff with him at K-State. Like, he was taking to social media and clapping back at some of the fans. Now, the other running backs, Yassine Willis from Syracuse, Jalen Dupree from Colorado State, 2 guys that were kind of RB2 but very productive in their previous stops, will help the workload for Edwards. But Edwards, to me, is the biggest gamble because of everything that I just outlined just a season ago at K-State. All right, let's look at the KU schedule. What is the trap game for what is, to your point that you mentioned earlier, a brutal slate?
Baylor on October 24th. It's a home game. Baylor is I would say, kind of a Big 12 mid-tier program. So this is one of those swing games for KU if they're going to be upper tier or lower tier Big 12. And it's a home game for Kansas, which obviously looks like a win on paper. The problem is this game immediately follows back-to-back road trips at Utah and at Kansas State. So Kansas is likely coming home from Manhattan emotionally drained, making this a classic letdown spot. Plus, a rested Baylor team with home preparation against Kansas traveling from back-to-back conference and road games is a genuine trap. So trap game for me is Baylor on October 24th.
Yeah, I think, like, KU's schedule, they go road, home, road in Big 12 play. They don't have back-to-back home games at any point this season. So I think any of their home games could be trap games, right? So you highlighted Baylor. I highlighted their next home game against UCF, which is on Saturday, November 7th. It is sandwiched between their games at TCU and at West Virginia. And like the Baylor game, winnable on paper. KU's 2-0 all-time against UCF late in the season, a home game, but that's also what makes it a trap game. That is the problem. Kansas will be coming off a Halloween road game at TCU. They turn right around 7 days later. And UCF, you know, they've shown the ability to kind of play spoiler in this league, albeit most of those games have been in Orlando. But if UCF is if they make the breakthrough that Matt Murschel at the Orlando Sentinel, who was our guest yesterday, expects them to make, that's a game that UCF has identified as winnable. Steal one on the road in Lawrence. So that's my trap game. Love that we highlight those October games as the trap games for KU. All right, what is the biggest game for KU this year?
I figure you'll have this one as well. It's the Sunflower Showdown at Kansas State on October 17th. And it's been well documented. Kansas has lost 16 straight in the series. They have not won in Manhattan since 2007. There's the Dylan Edwards subplot, but that's, if Dylan Edwards is even in the lineup and available by October 17th. So I got to believe it to see it. So biggest game for me, definitely the Sunflower Showdown, a rivalry that has been exceedingly one-sided.
Man, there are a lot of big games on KU's schedule. I actually went with the Missouri game. I mean, you're a Kansas alum. What's the bigger rival, Missouri or K-State?
Missouri. But I think the streak with K-State. Yeah, I mean, you could make the case for Missouri. It's a good call. I mean, it's the first time they played in Lawrence in a long time. I mean, even going back when they played both in the Big 12, they played in Kansas City multiple years. So that's a good argument. For me, it's just the 16-game streak. It's the Dylan Edwards piece, and it's the conference game part of it.
Especially when you factor the Edwards piece. Like, that's a really good note with his homecoming game. But, that border war between KU and Missouri, dormant for 14 years. They kickstarted last year. KU had the game won. Like, KU had Missouri on the ropes. And now you get them at home early in the year. I also think that's a tone-setter game. Like, that's a game that if Lance Leipold is going to get Kansas back to 8 or 9 wins and in a bowl, that's one you need. And it's right before the Arizona State-London game, which is 8 days later. So it'll be the first time that David Booth Stadium, albeit not at full capacity because of the construction progress, but, it's going to be rocking. It's going to be rowdy. It's going to be a very tough environment for Missouri. And anytime I see Big 12 SEC on the non-conference, I automatically go to that game. And then the rivalry piece on top of it. and, again, a tone setter for Kansas this year. All right, biggest 3-game stretch that could define the season for the Hawks.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different directions that you
Yes.
could go with this. I went with the final 3 games of the regular season. November 14th at West Virginia, November 21st versus BYU, and November 28th at Oklahoma State. You know, if you recall, 2024 and 2025 were dramatically different in how they got to 5-7. Kansas crumbled down the stretch in 2025. They lost 5 of 6. They needed 1 win after getting to 5 wins and couldn't do it. In 2024, they won 4 of 6 down the stretch. Both ended in 5-7 records. So Kansas was really bad in 24 at the beginning of the year, and then fantastic down the stretch. Last year, Kansas was good at the beginning of the year and crumbled down the stretch. So which one is it? And you know, I think when you think about just finishing strong in a stretch, 2 road games and a home game, but arguably 3 winnable games. I know big BYU is one of the Big 12 favorites, so maybe that's less winnable, but certainly look and think as road games, you could potentially win 2 of those 3. You'd be in good shape at the end of the season. So I think there's lots of ways you can go with it. I think early season where they have to travel to London after playing Missouri, and then Middle Tennessee State at home following a bye week, like that could be a difficult stretch. They have all those games without a bye week at the end of the year. I think there's a lot of different directions you can go. But Kansas only has 3 Big 12 home games all season. One of those is BYU. So I think the road conference games carry a ton more weight and importance. And, you know, I expect Oklahoma State to bounce back, and I expect West Virginia to be better, but those are 2 winnable road games for Kansas down the stretch. So my 3-game swing stretch is the final 3 games of the regular season for KU.
Yeah, and like 2 years ago, KU they were knocking off top 25 teams late in the year. It's like, where had this been all season? And KU's the king of the close game, like so many close games over the years. Love that you highlight those last 3 because I took 2 of the 3 in my block as the games that were lumped together right before that stretch. So I look at October 31st, Halloween Saturday at TCU, and then home against UCF, and then at West Virginia. With all these road games, like, you've got to figure out a way to steal some. And I see this as the best possibility for KU to do that. At TCU, you get UCF at home, at West Virginia. I think to be a bowl team, you've got to win 2 of those 3.
Yeah,
realistically.
That's a good call. And I think it just speaks to, like, a lot of these games are kind of toss-ups. So,
Yes.
you know, and I'll get to this. We've talked a little bit about this throughout the series. But Lance Leipold, he plays not to lose. I think you mentioned the Missouri game, you know, down the stretch, just his play calling, decision making, playing not to lose, and they ended up losing these games because of it. And you did it with a 6th-year quarterback in Jalen Daniels. It made no sense to me, some of the decision making. And so I hope he's learned from those past mistakes of maybe be a little bit more aggressive, take some chances on your team. Don't play it so close to the vest and play not to lose.
And how conservative will they be with a new quarterback and not knowing who that guy will be this season? All right, the road to Arlington series, the Kansas Jayhawks, the team we're highlighting today. We'll take a timeout. After the break, we go over the one player they cannot lose, the hidden strength of this KU football team, the stat that will define the season, the pressure point, and what does success actually look like, how they could maybe be a dark horse for the Big 12 title. Kansas, the team that we focus on today here on Big 12 Radio, exclusively on TuneIn, powered by Modelo, and watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. It is the road to Arlington, the Kansas Jayhawks. The team that we look at today, the one player they can't lose, their hidden strength, the number, a stat that could define the season, the pressure point for KU, and what success actually looks like, why they will or will not compete for a Big 12 championship this season. Let's dive right back in. Ari, who is the one player that KU cannot lose?
Yeah, I think that's Trey Lathan, the linebacker. You know, one of the strengths of KU is their front seven. I mean, their defensive line looks to be pretty good, and their linebacking core, led by Trey Lathan, who was Kansas's leading tackler in 2025 with 86 total tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 2 fumble recoveries, and 1.5 sacks. Kansas has some question marks at the back end of their defense, but that front seven is really good. It's led by Lathan. So if they lose him, and they just don't have much depth beyond him at the linebacker position. So, and Lathan's a guy that initially entered the portal but pulled back and decided to come back, which is huge because KU would be very dry without him. So Lathan, to me, because of the lack of depth behind him and because of that being a strength potentially in their front seven with their defensive line, and then Lathan.
Yeah, and linebacker was really a rocky position for KU last year with all the injuries that they had.
Right.
I go to the offensive side of the football, and this was tough to pick one guy that they can't lose, but I go with their starting left tackle because you've got a three-headed monster at quarterback. We don't know who the number one guy is going to be. The guy that's protecting his blind side is pretty important, and that would be Calvin Clements, the left tackle, who played and started all 12 games for KU at left tackle last year. The season before, in 2024, when KU paved the way for 211 rushing yards per game. They only allowed 10 sacks. Remember, that offensive line 2 years ago was really good, and he started about half the games at left tackle and played in all 12. So this is his 4th year in the program. He's a local kid. He's from Lawrence Free State High School right there in Lawrence, Kansas. The number 8 player in the state of Kansas, picked KU over K-State and Missouri and all the area schools. So I look at that left tackle position. He could be an all-league guy. He's got to be on the field for the Hawks.
Yeah, it's a good call.
All right, hidden strength for KU.
Just mentioned it, but defensive line, nationally, I think the discussion around KU is Andy Kotelnicki coming back and the question marks at offense. One of the more underappreciated, pieces to KU this year is their defensive line. So, they returned their arguably their best player for the defensive line last year in Blake Harold, who had 43 tackles and 2 sacks in 2025, and he's an interior defensive tackle. Plus, Dakius Brinkley, who is a true sophomore, former 4-star out of Katy, who had 1.5 sacks and 15 total tackles in limited action as a true freshman last year. He's 6'3", 250 pounds as an edge rusher, and as a true sophomore, I think he becomes a huge playmaker rushing the edge for them. Plus, Leroy Harris returns to the team's top pass rusher after having 4.5 sacks and 8 passes defensed, so he's kind of a dual threat guy. They also flipped Jabril Conde, the number 1 rated defensive lineman in the portal, away from Wisconsin, which is a huge win, and then they added UAB defensive line transfer Eamon Smalls, 6'2", 310 pounds, had 50 tackles in 2025. So with Harold, Harris, Conde, Smalls, and Brinkley all capable of rotating in this scheme, I think that's the one area that DK McDonald can lean on is the defensive line.
I love it. And Eamon Smalls, the big nose tackle, is one of the biggest defensive linemen in the country, comes over from UAB. Trayvon McAlpine from Tulane is going to be a dude. So I love the defensive line. I highlighted the edge rushers on that defensive line as being a hidden strength for KU. Leroy Harris III, the transfer from Tennessee Chattanooga. His dad played offensive line at NC State and then spent many years in the NFL, 7 in the NFL. This is an underrated transfer portal addition. He played in 12 games last year. He had a 75-yard fumble return touchdown at West Carolina. And then last year at KU, played 12 games in his first season, had 4.5 sacks, 6.5 TFLs. And then Brinkley, he was like their big portal guy 2 years ago from Texas. 4-star recruit, was top 250 nationally.
Finkley. Justice Finkley.
Oh, I'm thinking of Finkley.
Yeah, Brinkley.
Brinkley and Finkley. Thank you.
I was like, wait, no, Brinkley is a true freshman last year at KU.
You're
thinking of Finkley.
Finkley is who I'm thinking of, and you're right.
Brinkley and Brinkley. That's going to be amazing. I didn't even realize that until you said it. You got Finkley on one edge, Brinkley on the other edge. Let's go.
Brinkley was the highest-rated high school recruit in KU football history.
Yeah.
Chose KU over Oklahoma and Missouri and Oregon and Penn State. Some really high-profile.
Finkley was also a high recruit for Texas.
Yep. 4-star guy.
Finkley and Brinkley. That's going to be amazing.
All right, what is the number for Kansas, the stat that could define the season?
Number 1. 1-score games. I talked earlier about Lance Leipold playing not to lose, and you could argue that his record in 1-score games over the last 2 seasons is a product of that. Now, I also think you look deeper, and while Jalen Daniels was very good, you could probably chalk the Cincinnati loss up last year to a really bad turnover down the stretch of that game. And so I don't want to put it all on Leipold and some of his decision-making, but you also have a quarterback in Daniels that made some really bad mistakes at really bad times. In 24, Kansas lost 5 1-score games. The team was frequently competitive but failed to close. And then 25, the pattern continued. Remember, losing close games and winning close games tends to be a stat that evens out year over year. But the fact that it's 2 years in a row with Kansas being really bad in 1-score games speaks to, I think, some decision-making on the coach's part. So I would argue that's playing not to lose. The most important metric for the 26 Jayhawks is not total yards, it's not passing efficiency, it's not defensive efficiency on third downs. It's records in games decided by 3 points or fewer. A 3-2 or 4-1 record in 1-score games is a bowl team. A repeat of the last 2 years, 1-4, 0-5, is another 5-7 season.
Yeah, I just realized that I had 2 hidden strengths. So shout out to Anthony, our video producer, for being on top of this, because I sent him a hidden strength for last segment too, which was Andy Kotelnicki, the new offensive coordinator. I don't think enough people realize how good he was when he was at Kansas. So apparently I had 2 strengths for both segments. My apologies. Love that number, by the way. Close games, KU's had so many. The number for me is 15, because you and I both highlighted the defensive line and the edge rushers as maybe being a hidden strength. Well, KU only had 15 sacks last year in Big 12 play. Now, for the season, their number looks pretty good. But against high-level competition in Big 12 games only, they had 15, which ranked 11th out of the 16 teams in the conference. They gave up over 500 yards 3 different times last year, and you noted that they were 87th nationally in total defense. They struggled to get off the field. Now, Harris and Brinkley are the reason that number could move this year. Those guys are super aggressive, can get after the quarterback, but they have to have more sacks in Big 12 play. That is my number. All right, what does success look like for KU? And then we'll get to the pressure point.
I think bowl eligibility, and we've gone back and forth with all these teams at the bottom of the Big 12 in terms of what success looks like. And for me, it's so many question marks on offense, certainly question marks on defense. A team coming off back-to-back 5-7 seasons after Leipold had built up so much credibility for what he did his first couple of years at KU. Now it feels like it's kind of plateaued. And this is a difficult schedule. They play 3 true Big 12 home games. They play 4, but the 4th is against Arizona State in London. So that's not really a home game, obviously. They play Missouri in the non-conference, which is a very difficult SEC opponent. They have to travel to Manhattan. So, their schedule is tough. They have a lot of question marks. I think bowl eligibility would be humongous. And maybe even further than that, and this will be the case until Kansas actually breaks through and beats K-State, but I think success looks like beating Kansas State for the first time in 16 tries. So a bowl win or a bowl eligibility with a win at Kansas State would take care of both of those for KU.
Yeah, especially when, last year, we all thought that was the year that KU would end the streak.
Right.
And now, on paper anyway, another prime opportunity with a first-year head coach in Manhattan with Colin Klein. For success, for me, I wrote down 8 wins because Lance Leipold back-to-back 5-win campaigns, but the year before, they were a 9-win football team. They had experienced rosters the last 2 years and couldn't get to a bowl game. So I think the patience is growing thin for KU fans to get back to that 8 or 9-win level. I don't know that just going to a bowl game, I think success for me, that would be like the floor. I think KU fans, when you look at their schedule, and yes, it's very tough, but also you see Middle Tennessee and LIU and Baylor and UCF all at home. Those should be 4 wins. And every other game on KU's schedule, I would argue, would be a coin flip game. You don't have Texas Tech. You get BYU at home. The K-State game is going to be a huge game for KU. So
no Utah. It's a good point.
Like Missouri at home, there are opportunities if you split those other games. You're at 8 wins. So to me, that's what I think a successful year. I think a bowl season would still be like, okay, like we had a decent year, but to feel really good about yourself, I think it's 8. All right, pressure point. Who is it?
So this is one I'm not going to go with the head coach here because I think the pressure is actually on Andy Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator, associate head coach. Because Leipold's job is in immediate jeopardy. Neither is Andy Kotelnicki's, but it feels like Kotelnicki's under a ton of pressure because of the success that he's had. Expectations are that his offense will look like what it's looked like under Leipold at KU and even under James Franklin at Penn State. I mean, look, it worked, right? We wondered if Kotelnicki's offense would work in a bigger program that hasn't had a ton of offensive success, and it did. So, like, this is a dude that everywhere he's been has had great offenses, including in 2022 and 2023 at Kansas, which were record-setting Kansas offenses. But this is an offense with all kinds of question marks. I mean, we haven't even talked about wide receiver, a ton of question marks at wide receiver. They lose Emmanuel Henderson, like Cam Pickett's back, and they added some guys to the portal, but still small school guys. You know, the running back room is a major question mark. The quarterback is a major question mark. So it's like, with all that, the expectations on Kotelnicki are pretty high considering the success that he's had. So I think that's why Kotelnicki's under the most pressure for KU this year.
No, that's a really good point. And for Lance Leipold to feel good about 2027, Kotelnicki is a massive piece for this year. The pressure point for me is Lance Leipold's seat. You know, back-to-back non-bowl season football for KU at 5-7. When you're making $7 million a year, and I know that like he revived the program, but now the question becomes, can he get them to the next level?
Right.
Now, the athletic director, your buddy Travis Goff, has been supportive and publicly backed him through a rough stretch last year, but under contract through 2029, like the narrative is starting to shift a little bit. There have been hot seat mentions when it comes to, I think, any coach at a power conference school that misses a bowl back-to-back years, 3 straight misses, and it's going to be tough for him to be back in 2027.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's back in 27 regardless of what happens this year, but it's 2028 that, I mean, you got to start winning football games. And again, I like, be more aggressive. Don't be so conservative. Like, change a little bit that way. Mm-hmm. Learn from the past. Because you were so scared to lose some of these games and not give them away, you lost them anyways.
What is their path for KU to be a major dark horse and win the Big 12?
Well, I mean, it's Andy Kotelnicki. He's the wild card. When he was last running KU's offense, the Jayhawks were one of the 3 highest scoring offenses in program history. At Penn State, Kotelnicki's offenses were amongst the nation's best. And working with James Franklin, having an explosive offense says a lot about Andy Kotelnicki. I also think the other part is the Chase Jenkins and or Isaiah Marshall wild card because both are dual threats, both have great speed. I mean, Marshall's a track guy. Marshall also 6 foot, 215 pounds. Chase Jenkins a little bit smaller. He's 6 foot, 190 pounds. So either could be a wild card because their dual threat explosiveness could unlock the Kotelnicki system, and you know Kansas then becomes a legitimate upset threat in any week. So. And then that coupled with the fact that their strength on defense and the defensive line and the edge rush. So I think if they hit a jackpot here with Kotelnicki and either Jenkins or Marshall as dual threat guys, the running back room coalesces. Now the Kotelnicki offense really comes together, and then they have a good pass rush. This team could be on the road to Arlington. I don't buy it, but I could see it.
Yeah, I mean when Kotelnicki was calling plays, they averaged 7 yards per play back in 2022, a school record. He's had 2 of the top 3 highest scoring offenses in KU football history during the very short window that he was there. 35 points per game in 22, 34.8 in 2023. And remember, he did it with a backup quarterback in Jason Beam. So that tells me that
track guy.
Exactly. Whoever's at quarterback, and Bean's numbers at KU were way better than they were when he was the quarterback at North Texas. So he transferred up and blossomed in that system. So that gives me hope that Marshall, track speed, Chase Jenkins, former wide receiver, moved to quarterback because his elusiveness at that position and his straight line speed, it wouldn't surprise me for one of those guys for it to just click and they have an all Big 12 type season. Why won't they get to Arlington?
Yeah, this one's more obvious. Well, they're 57th nationally in SP Plus heading into the season. They have 31 transfers, an unsettled quarterback situation, and a defensive secondary that lost its second leading tackler in Lyric Rawls. Plus, they've got that brutal road schedule. And if you're looking at schematic brilliance to overcome all of those obstacles, then that's probably why the Big 12, the road to Arlington, will not go through Lawrence, Kansas. Arlington in December requires everything to go right. Right now, too many things are still undetermined for Kansas to be a serious Big 12 contender. It's full stop.
And for me, it comes down to KU actually does have quite a bit of starts coming back. When you look at in comparison to other teams and they're too deep, they have 7 or 8 starters that would qualify as returning starters on the defensive side of the football. But when you're in the mid-80s, does that move the needle enough?
Well, and it's basically 50%. You can chalk it up all different ways. And the teams we've done so far, 50% would be amazing. Because the teams we've done so far, the rearview mirror, are not even close to 50% of their same roster being back.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's a lot more than it is. And it is also a departure from what Leipold has said, because Leipold, to his credit, has done a great job in not losing guys to the portal. This is the first offseason where he's had a lot of that.
So it doesn't click. KU struggles. The tough schedule, only 3 games at home. They can't win on the road. That's how they don't get to Arlington.
Well, and I would just say this, going back to what success looks like in terms of being a bowl season. For me, it's like you get to 6-7 wins, you set the table for a 2027 team with a lot of these question marks being answered.
Especially at a program where there's not a ton of roster turnover. They've been really good at continuity. The new stadium should be finished by then. You're in a really good spot. This year's the setup year for a Big 12 championship contender for Kansas. At least that's the hope in Lawrence. Matt Tate, managing editor for R1S1 Sports, KU's site wavethewheat.com, will join us coming up next to break down the KU offseason and the road to Arlington for the Jayhawks. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. This is Big 12 Radio, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Off to the races already. Emmanuel Henderson Jr. Touchdown passes of 41 yards and 39 yards, respectively. This is Emmanuel Henderson, who had a 42-yard kickoff return in the first half. Has a seam. He pulls through, and he's off to the races. Emmanuel Henderson opens the second half with a kickoff return touchdown of 93 yards.
Nothing fancy coming up. Watch this little cut that he makes right here. Right there. Guys had an opportunity to get him, and then, like he's a sprinter at the World Championship, showing him the tail line. Look at him stretch it out. And that's the way you're supposed to do it. You finish through the tape, man. You got to get that lean at the tape. Henderson electrifies this crowd here in Lawrence. And watch this. The form dip. Get that chest to break the tape at the goal line.
Not break stride here at all. And just unfortunately, Tate and Barnes' feet get tangled up right there really awkwardly. Made him touch grass. I think the off-frame throw.
Daniels looking Henderson's way, and he's going to take a shot for him. He adjusts. He's there. Caught. And into the end zone. Touchdown.
Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, brought to you, the full-time fan, by our friends at Modelo. He's Ari, I'm James. We welcome in Matt Tate from Wave the Wheat, R1S1Sports.com. Matt, good morning.
Good morning. How we doing?
Man, we are awesome. Let's start with the KU quarterback room. You wrote about the transfer from Rice, Chase Jenkins, but who's going to be KU's quarterback this year?
Yeah, Chase is a great story and a great kid, and it was fun to kind of introduce him to the Kansas fans because he's just a super hard worker and a great teammate, and he's just here to have fun. And if he gets a chance, he gets a chance. But I don't know that he's expecting much. And that said, KU's had to go to their third quarterback a couple of times in recent years, so he'll be ready if they do. But the race is really down to Isaiah Marshall and Chase Ballard. And you look around the Twitterverse and see all those preseason rankings of the top quarterbacks in the Big 12, and whichever one they have is usually 16th right now. I don't think there's a lot of respect across the league for either one of these guys, but they can both play, and they're both very different. Their minds are similar. They work the same. They've sat and learned for the last couple of years, and they understand what the position needs right now, and that's someone to go out and run the offense and make the plays that are there and just keep the chains moving. The difference is, Isaiah Marshall's a terrific athlete and can make plays with his legs, and he can throw the ball too, but he brings a different dynamic with his legs. So if he ends up winning the job, that'll be why he wins it, is because he's more of a playmaker and he can run and create problems for defenses with that part of his game. If Cole Ballard ends up winning the job, it'll be because of all those things we talked about in the beginning here, with his intelligence and his experience and just his leadership and just making the right play and being consistent with that. I think what they're looking for is which of the two guys will be more consistent in running the offense. And so it's a coin flip right now, I think. I think most people have it as Cole in the lead for that job, and I would too. If you made me, make a guess right now or stake my life on it, I would pick Cole Ballard. But I do think even if Cole wins the job, and I think he could be very successful, I think they're going to find ways to get Isaiah on the field in packages. They're not going to go, two quarterback system or anything like that, but they will find ways to get him on the field more than they have in the past, just because he's such a playmaker and he can really put stress on defenses with his ability from lining up in the pocket or under center or shotgun or whatever it is. I mean, he can get out and go. So I think it'll come down to mid to late camp. I think they're going to give both of these guys every opportunity in the world to show that they're the quarterback for this team, and the decision will be made then. But yeah, I think most people believe it'll probably be Cole Ballard. But again, because Kansas, as much as anybody, knows that you need more than one quarterback a lot of times these days, they do have some other options there that aren't total doom and gloom if it happens that way.
Matt, help me make sense of this, because Andy Kotelnicki's offense seems to work better with a more athletic quarterback. That's clearly Isaiah Marshall. Does this say more about Marshall and why he hasn't taken the job? Or is this kind of more of the conservative approach for Lance Leipold that we're used to seeing?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm not sure anybody knows the answer. The thing is, you're right. I mean, everybody that has followed Kotelnicki would probably sit here and go, well, yeah, Isaiah's his guy. That makes more sense, right? He can do more things. He can be more fun. He can be more dynamic. They can create more mismatch type stuff with offense and whatnot. So I think you're right there that I think most people would agree with that. But at the same time, if you really watch what Kotelnicki's done, certainly at Kansas and then even at Penn State, if people were paying attention to that, what makes his offenses work is just getting the ball out quick and getting it to the right spots.
Yeah.
And he'll do the pre-snap motion stuff, and he'll line up odd packages, and he'll put 4 tight ends on the field at the same time sometimes and run them around and really make the defense, be in a compromised position pre-snap. And so when you do look at it that way and remember that he's sort of a mad magician or a mad scientist pulling the strings even before the snap with some of that motion stuff, it does make a little more sense to remember that maybe Cole is the right guy, even for Andy, because if he can just get the right read in and get them into the right stuff and know where the ball's got to go and then get it out, I think you can win with a guy like that, and you can have success offensively for sure.
Matt, we go through a series of questions and topics for each team during this Road to Arlington series, but what would you say the hidden strength is for this KU team that maybe is being overlooked?
Yeah, I it's weird because in some ways it might be hidden all the way. In other ways, it might be sort of a secondary hidden strength, but their running back room's pretty good. I mean, they got Dylan Edwards, who's been a bit of a up and down lightning rod type of dude throughout his career. I mean, they recruited him hard out of high school when he was at Derby and dominating the state. And he ended up going to Colorado, and then he ended up at K-State, and somewhere in there he was Notre Dame bound for a little while, and he's had ups and downs, and he's been a bit of a hot topic and a headline kind of guy, and so people know his talent. So I don't think that's very hidden, but I think what they might not understand is that this guy seems different to me. I didn't cover him at those other places, but he is not, at least in the experience that I've had with him so far, he is not the guy that we've heard about with this attitude and prima donna stuff and ups and downs and all that at all his other stops. I mean, he's happy to be at KU. He seems happy with himself and with his career and the trajectory that it's at this point. He seems like he just wants to be a teammate. He doesn't want to be the show. He doesn't want me, and all of that stuff that people might expect that he believes. So I've been really surprised by that, and his talent is unquestionable. I mean, he is electric, and he can carry an offense. He can carry a running back position room. And then why I think, some of that's sort of the hidden nature of that, but why I think maybe the whole position deserves to be the answer here is because there's talent behind him too. They got a transfer from Syracuse, Yasin Willis, who's a monster, a big physical dude, but he moves. He's got some shake to him too. He'll play a big role, and that will help Dylan as well. There's a freshman, Corey Amakri, who they say already physically and mentally is ready to contribute. They have another guy, Jalen Dupree, who transferred from Colorado State, who's had a really good college career. He was hurt this spring, so kind of unknown as far as where he'll be heading into the fall camp and that kind of stuff. But that's 3, 4, 5 guys right there. Justin Thurman's another guy who was a freshman last year who they really like for his future and his outlook as a long-time kind of KU guy. Another player that can play. So there's some real talent in that running back room, and I think that's important because it's spread out. There's depth, and on top of that, they have the opportunity to use those guys in a bunch of different ways, and that can help the quarterback.
I'm so interested in your thoughts on Lance Leipold. Obviously Leipold came in and just completely turned things around for a Kansas program that had been so awful. It's even, probably putting it lightly.
Yeah, it is.
Redefining rock bottom continually is maybe a better way to put it. But it's 5-7 seasons back to back. How they got to 5-7 in back-to-back seasons is totally different. I think you have a combination of Jalen Daniels, as good as he was, making some really bad mistakes in crucial moments. The Cincinnati game stands out, and then I think some of the decision making from Leipold in the Missouri game, just playing not to lose. Give us kind of your assessment overall of Lance Leipold, Matt.
Yeah, it's a major question. I think 2-3 years ago they were ready to build a statue and carry this man around on their shoulders wherever he needed to go. If he had to run to the grocery store, fans were going to line up and carry him and wrap him in bubble wrap and just say, "We got you, coach. Don't worry about it. Whatever you need." And that's not the feeling anymore. The majority, and maybe even overwhelming majority of the fan base still really appreciates who he is. It's you have to recognize what you talked about, going from redefining rock bottom, as you said brilliantly, to being relevant and to being a team that's worth watching and exciting and people are not afraid to root for and get into and all of that. So I mean, he did that. You can't deny that. You can't take it away. He may have done it a little too quickly because that 9-win season really came fast and really came out of nowhere. And then because we live in the 2020 decade, people had their expectations changed. I mean, this is now all of a sudden, okay, well, if you won 9 last year, you better win 10 next year or we're not going to be happy. And so there's some of it that's unreasonable expectations and maybe a little bit unrealistic too. But there is some of it that's valid. I mean, some of it is, like you said, they're 5-7 in back-to-back seasons, and if they just found a way to win a 6th game in either or both of those, the opinion of Lance Leipold would be completely different, I think. Right now, I think they're still, okay, well, he's done good, and we recognize that, and we appreciate that. But at the same time, can he do more?
Yeah.
Do we know if he can do more? Is it there? And I don't know that anyone knows the answer to that. I don't know that he knows the answer to that. But I think, when you look at it as far as the leader of Kansas and what they're trying to do with that program, the stadium build and just everything that they're trying to, put back into that and show that they're serious about football, I don't know that you could have a much better guy at the helm in that regard, because he's really liked by the donors and the key core guys that are helping build this thing. And then on top of it, the culture is no nonsense. The culture is serious. He has completely rebuilt that culture, and it's a team and roster full of quality, high character individuals. And yeah, they've got to play football for that stuff to matter. But you're not walking around worrying about grades. You're not worrying about, off the field incidents. You're not worrying about any of that stuff. And for a lot of people, that still means a whole lot. So I think it's a big year for him. I don't think he has a whole bunch of years left. I think, I think he's probably closer to retirement than a lot of people realize. And that's just because he wants to go enjoy his life and he's earned it. But nonetheless, as far as his legacy and how the next 2-3 years or however many he has left will go, I think this is a big year. He's got to win, and it's going to be harder than maybe any of the years he's had here.
How old is he?
61, something like that.
Yeah.
I could look that up real quick, but he's not old by any means.
Yeah.
But when you spend all those years at Division III, Wisconsin Whitewater, and had all that success, and then you went to Buffalo and had that success, and then you come to a place like Kansas in the Big 12, in the portal era, in the NIL era, it's only been a few years, but man, those few years in the landscape that we're living in, that can age you quick, and it can feel like a lot longer than it was. So he's done a phenomenal job. There's nobody that can take that away from him. But this is a big year. He's got to show that there's more in the tank. He's got to show that, okay, not only can we build this thing back up, because that's the thing that he's been throughout his career. He's an incredible program builder. But now can you take it to another level? Can you overachieve a time or two? Can you do more than people are expecting? Can you do more than it looks like you might have to work with? And so that's why this is a really big year. And again, the talent on the roster, the questions they have, there's a lot there, but there's also a really tough schedule out in front of them too. So it'll be a very interesting season, and it's a big one for him, and again, his legacy.
Yeah, well said.
By the way, good call. He just turned 62 a couple weeks ago. So.
Wow.
Okay. Oh, I didn't text him.
Matt Tate, love your coverage, Matt. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, you bet, guys. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Take care.
Matt Tate from the R1S1 Sports KU site, Wave the Wheat. Phenomenal coverage, a big piece on the new quarterback, Chase Jenkins, who transferred from Rice and might be the fastest guy on the team.
You just heard it from Matt. He's, we talked about that race as a three-guy race, but Matt said it's two guys now. It's Marshall or Ballard.
Mm-hmm. And Ballard may be the front runner. All right, coming up next here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, we'll break down some Big 12 headlines, the Players era brackets are out. Who will KU or Baylor or K-State or Iowa State draw? We'll tell you about that. And then Jamie Plunkett, who covers the Big 12 on the diamond for Base 12 Sports, has been joining us every Friday during the spring sports season. to talk Big 12 baseball before we wrap the show. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio, brought to you by Modelo.
Montez retreating. That one's batted. That one's picked. And we got action in Lubbock. Skylar Gill Howard. A big man touchdown. At the 16. Dampier drops it off near side. Snowden looking for some blockers. And he won't get them. They're just jumping on him. Gill Howard. Just go get the quarterback.
Bailey bearing down, and there's a sack, and it's Skylar Gill Howard. Bailey applied pressure from the edge. Gill Howard cleaned it up inside. 4th down.
Couple of sacks, couple of tackles for losses in this game. Chris Brilliant running here, and they're going to blow it dead, short of the line.
Figure out how to move the ball. Dampier fakes the toss, and he'll gain a yard, not a lot, as Skylar Gill Howard comes up with the tackle.
Keep it on the ground on 3rd and long to try to get something to put him in 4th and manageable. Burnett down at the 40.
Best Texas Tech defense I've seen in the last 10 plus years. That pass is intercepted. And again, it was Murphy under pressure. Lots of pressure.
Here's a handoff. Rodgers.
Rodgers gains 5. Gill Howard again.
We are Big 12 today. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league powered by Modelo. This is our In Case You Missed It segment, because in case you missed it, you can catch it again today. Big 12 Power Hour, our spring preview or post-spring team preview highlights Kansas State today. We also had Barrett Brooks, former K-State offensive lineman who played 9 seasons in the NFL, won a Super Bowl with the Steelers. He's our interview of the day during that hour, so that will be at 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central this afternoon. Also at 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Central, wall-to-wall coverage here on Big 12 Radio. We'll hit the best at each position series powered by Modelo. Today we look at the quarterbacks in the Big 12, ranking our top 5, the running backs in the Big 12, and specialists. And then you can also catch our Road to Arlington series, which we just completed with Matt Tate from Wave the Wheat. Highlights the Kansas Jayhawks at 4 Eastern, 3 o'clock Central Time later today. Like, I look at KU, they have some pieces. If Kotelnicki can revive the offense like he did the first go-around, there is a path for them to be really good. The running backs look really good on paper. Whether it's Ballard or Marshall at quarterback or whoever, Kotelnicki's a guru with that position. The offensive line, they've got some nice transfers at center and guard. The kid that we caught up with a few weeks ago from Texas is their number 1 portal guy. Are you feeling more or less optimistic about KU football after our series?
Well, let me answer that question with another question. So this has been week 1 of the Road to Arlington. We've done a deep dive on each one of these teams, the bottom of the Big 12 from last year. Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Colorado, UCF, Kansas. Did I miss anybody?
I don't think so. Nice.
So this is the season of optimism, right? And we could probably carve a path for each one of these teams to have a successful season in the Big 12. Power rank these 5 teams in terms of how optimistic you are about how successful they're going to be.
Okay. Number 1, I would have West Virginia.
More than Oklahoma State.
Correct. Really high on the Mountaineers. Year 2 for Rich Rod. Year 1 coaches struggle. Now, there have been a few exceptions and outliers, and this is supposed to be the Cignetti, Indiana 2.0 in this league. Oklahoma State would probably be number 2, and then I'd have Colorado, and then I'd have KU, and then I'd have UCF. What about you?
What's so interesting about West Virginia and UCF are very similar dynamics and situations. You've got a coach, in both instances coming back to a program they already left. Neither had success last year. Now, West Virginia and Rich Rod had a path of the portal wanting guys with multiple years of eligibility left. UCF has 1-year rental guys. Totally different approach. I don't know which one's the better approach, and obviously if you get better players, it doesn't matter how much eligibility they have, right? It's all about if you got better players. I mean, I would definitely put Oklahoma State number 1. I might put Colorado number 2. Then Kansas, then West Virginia, then UCF.
So neither of us have Kansas, who based off of what they did last year should be number 1 because we're going from the bottom of the Big 12 standings to the top.
Yeah.
And we have them 3 and 4. And I can't figure out why. Is it because of all the close losses? Is it because of their schedule? They have more experience on their roster in terms of guys that have worn the KU jersey than any of those other teams we've highlighted.
Well, and, again, the Jalen Daniels piece, like I could argue this is actually an upgrade at the position just based on the unknown. Because Daniels, for as good as he was, and he was phenomenal, he put up some big-time numbers, and he is the face of the turnaround with Lance Leipold. He just had some critical head-scratching mistakes, and at crucial times. I mean, bad turnovers. Again, I go to that Cincinnati game, but there are plenty throughout his career. So, I think there is reason for optimism, but I just feel like this is the time for optimism, and that's, in many ways, what the Road to Arlington series is about. It's about being realistic, but also having a sprinkle of optimism, because you could paint a picture for a team to have a significant turnaround year over year, and we see it. It happens in college football, and certainly can happen in the Big 12 this year.
And what's super interesting is KU fans, I think, would say the same thing about Jalen Daniels. He was the face of the Lance Leipold KU turnaround. But KU's best season during his eligibility window was when he was sidelined with an injury.
Yeah, their best season came with Jason Bean at quarterback.
Jason Bean in 2023.
Yeah.
So that's just a really weird thing that's the year they won 9 games, and it was when Jalen Daniels was sidelined, and Jason Bean was throwing for 18 touchdowns to 7 picks, over 2,200 yards, the completion percentage, got a look in the NFL. Now he's in the XFL. Like, he was really the guy that had the breakthrough.
And Daniels really never got better. Like, you go back, Kansas went to back-to-back bowl games. By the way, Kansas has never been to 3 straight bowl games, ever. And, the first bowl game was the Arkansas loss in the Liberty Bowl, but it was an iconic performance by Jalen Daniels. He never got any better or even got to that level again. That was as good as he was in his career at KU, was that Arkansas game. That says a lot. He might have been a draft pick after that season. So, again, both things can be true. I think you can have really positive, incredible memories of Daniels. The fact that he never left. There were all kinds of rumors about him leaving at different times. He never left. There's a lot to like about him, but certainly I think feels like a good time to move on, and we'll see what happens at quarterback. But there were just too many mistakes in crucial moments, especially as he got older, and you're supposed to become smarter and better at that point.
See, and that's why I see this season as really, really – there's a lot of potential because of that position and moving on from him, whoever the guy is. I mean, going into, 23, you're right. He was a dark horse Heisman contender because of what he did in that bowl game. And then it just never transpired. The back injury stuff, the rest of the way, and KU goes 5-7 after that 9-win season back-to-back years. All right, the players' era, the matchups are out. The bracket is set. This is the Las Vegas preseason festival, tournament, MTE, whatever you want to call it. Big 12 has 8 teams. They formed that partnership officially with Players Era, a deal that's been extended to 2030 where the league gets half of their teams in the field. This year it's a little weird because Kansas State is in it, even though they didn't finish in the top 8 of the Big 12. But Houston will play Rutgers, Kansas will play UNLV, and West Virginia will play Auburn. That's the week before Thanksgiving. And then Florida and Notre Dame rounds out the other first-round game in that pod. This is kind of a pod system where you have your first couple of games set, and then you move into bracket play based off of your record. And then Thanksgiving week, Iowa State plays San Diego State, Texas Tech plays Louisville, K-State gets Gonzaga, Baylor plays Alabama, and TCU plays Miami, Florida. Some high-profile matchups for the league. Which one stands out?
Awesome. Can you remind me of those matchups in November?
Houston and Rutgers. KU gets UNLV.
No, I got it. Just remind me in November. This is a bridge too far for me.
Okay. This brain can't handle it. Big 12 historically has been rock solid in this tournament. Houston had a really good year back in 2024. They were the only Big 12 team. They got beat by Alabama. That was their one loss, but Alabama was a top 10 team. And then last year, Iowa State, remember, they were the breakthrough team. They went 3-0 in their pool. Houston went 2-1. The losses don't hurt you. Kansas lost to Michigan in the semifinals. But this is that NIL pay to advance festival for the Big 12.
Kansas did not play Michigan. Did they?
Last year?
Yeah.
I feel like that was the year before.
Yeah. Kansas, I think, finished second to Michigan in the tournament, but that's just based on, the record overall. Pretty sure Kansas did not play Michigan this past year.
Definitely not this past year. That would have been a bigger story.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Kansas played Tennessee, Syracuse, and Notre Dame this past year.
Yeah.
But it's a festival that, there's no bad losses. The wins can move the needle in the non-conference. But remember, Houston got beat by Tennessee, and then KU turned around and beat that Tennessee team last year. And it kind of repositioned the going into league play, who's legit and who's not.
We also, by the way, have super regionals in softball starting today.
Oklahoma State and Nebraska.
They got suspended last night, so they'll, instead of having game 1 last night, we'll have game 1 today. Texas Tech and Florida. That is an early first pitch, 10 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock Eastern time, Texas Tech and Florida. So that deal gets started going really early. And then later tonight, Arizona State, Texas at 8 o'clock, and UCF, UCLA at 8 o'clock as well. So 4 Big 12 teams in the softball super regionals. Huge weekend with tickets trying to be punched for Oklahoma City in the College World Series. So over/under 1.5, James.
Over.
Big 12 teams to the College World Series.
Oh, I was going to go over/under on the Big 12 record today.
Got it.
Because it all gets started here in about 45 minutes on ESPN2 with Texas Tech and Florida. All right, over/under 2. We'll set it at 2. Right at 2 for today.
I think the number is 2, so I'm going to push. What about you?
Push it 2? That feels right. Texas Tech and Florida in Gainesville, Oklahoma State and Nebraska. The 4-1 matchup there with the Pokes, the 4 seed. UCF is a 6 seed against UCLA. And Arizona State and Texas. That's the nightcap. I mean, the Big 12 slate is bookended with Texas Tech and Florida to start, Arizona and Texas tonight to wrap at 8 o'clock Central on ESPN2. Big 12 baseball tournament is underway. Jamie Plunkett from Base 12 Sports. We'll break it all down. Coming up next, Jamie joins us here on Big 12 Today, powered by Modelo, heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Back here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo. Jamie Plunkett is our guest from Base 12 Sports, the Big 12 baseball tournament in action. Quarterfinals yesterday, semis today. Oklahoma State moves on. Kansas gets a scare, but they advance over Baylor. West Virginia takes down Kansas State, and Arizona State beats Cincinnati. Jamie, good morning. Let's circle back to KU and Baylor. This one went down to the wire, 10 innings. What was your number one takeaway from that contest?
Oh, man, just one takeaway from that game that went 10 innings. Gosh, first of all, shout out to Baylor for the comeback, right? You get down 7-1 to the number one seed, and you come and score 6 runs in the final 2 innings to force extras. That's pretty impressive for Mitch Thompson's group. He was emotional in postgame, talking about how much he loves this team. Ty Johnson said some really glowing words about the program as well. Baylor's in a good spot. I think my biggest takeaway, though, from that game is that Kansas is incredibly resilient. You know, they lost Brady Ballinger before this week. He was not available for them. Normally, their starting left fielder. They went to Savion Flowers as a defensive replacement in left field late inning, like they do from time to time. And he's the one who delivered the walk-off home run. First home run of the season. He talked in postgame just about staying ready and what that takes to stay ready and treating it like it was just another rep in the batting cages for him. He was much more emotional rounding the bases than he was in postgame press conference. But it's a sign to me that the Kansas Jayhawks are legitimate when you have guys who can come off the bench at any given moment and deliver in a big one. Savion Flowers is the biggest takeaway from the Kansas game for me.
On the Ballinger piece, you know, he was ruled out for the Big 12 tournament. How precautionary is that, and how big of a deal is this for the NCAA tournament?
He's expected to be back for the NCAA tournament, so I don't anticipate it being too big of an issue long-term with Ballinger's injury. The good news is they have so much depth up and down that lineup that, you know, he's been absent a little bit this year. He hasn't hit quite as well as he did in 2025 this year, and the Jayhawks really haven't missed a beat. So, you know, Brady Ballinger is an incredibly important piece of that roster, of that lineup, but he's not required to be in the lineup for them to have a lot of success. And I think that can give Kansas fans a lot of hope, and I think that can give the Jayhawks team a lot of confidence moving forward.
What was the other, I guess, of the 4 games, the other headliner? You know, which team looked the best and maybe a little bit of a surprise to you?
Well, Arizona State looked great, especially that lineup. Scored 10 runs against Nate Taylor, and that pitching staff for Cincinnati was pretty great. Landon Hairston launched his 28th home run of the year to set the single-season all-time record at Arizona State. And, guys, you know Arizona State baseball is a pretty storied program. They've got 118 former MLB players that have come through that institution, and for Landon Hairston to set that record is pretty impressive. He spoke afterwards about how he felt a little bit of pressure once he got close to the record to get it. And so he crowned himself as he stepped on home plate and did a little, you know, had a little celebration. And I feel like him getting that monkey off of his back and the way that they're pitching right now makes Arizona State a very, very dangerous team heading into the NCAA tournament.
You know, what does it say, Jamie, about the league that the top 4 seeds now end up here in the Final Four of the Big 12 tournament?
Well, it's partly by design. You know, we don't have a single elimination tournament if you're not trying to protect the top seeds a little bit. And so the top 6 seeds were protected just by the design of this format. But, you know, I think it also tells you that there's really good baseball being played in the Big 12, that these top 4 seeds weren't flukes, right? Or top 5 seeds, I guess, with Oklahoma State beating UCF. Technically, I guess that's an upset. And you look around the league and you see, okay, well, Kansas advanced, but they got pushed to the limit by Baylor, who was the 8th seed. Kansas State, the 11th seed, advanced all the way to the quarterfinals and pushed West Virginia pretty hard yesterday. Cincinnati is going to be just fine. That was the latest game they've had to play this season. That game started at 11:40 Cincinnati time last night. So I think they're going to be just fine. And Oklahoma State's playing as good a baseball as anybody in the country right now. And so this format is designed to allow teams to take advantage of that double bye. And 4 teams did that yesterday.
Yeah, with KU and Oklahoma State, you know, Oklahoma State and all that power throughout their lineup. KU's been hot, obviously, with their bats. What do you think gives in that matchup?
Man, well, they used Dom Bagley yesterday. Kansas did. And so you've got to figure out as a pitching staff who's going to go today and how you're going to approach this Oklahoma State lineup because they are so potent. They can hit the ball better than anybody else in the conference, I believe. And they are doing that right now at a pretty consistent level. But I think the edge to me actually goes to Oklahoma State right now because of how they're pitching. And we got to talk to Josh Holliday a little bit about that yesterday after their win. And he pointed out that their pitching has been their strength over the last 4 or 5 weeks. When you think about Hudson Barrett returning, Mario Pesca returning, Noah Weck, all three of whom have suffered injuries this year, all three of whom pitched yesterday, and then you still have a guy like Ethan Lund available to go today, that's an incredible boost to a lineup, and it gives you so much protection for an offense that you know can go out and give you 8 to 10 runs on any given day. So Oklahoma State's looking like they're the most complete team in the conference right now. They did hit a lot of bumps along the way this regular season, but I think in similar vein to Arizona State, teams are not going to want to see Oklahoma State in their regional draw in 2 weeks.
Is there a chance that Oklahoma State could still host a regional?
Probably not at this point. I don't think their RPI is going to allow that, but they're going to be a high 2 seed. I think if they get all the way to Saturday this week, they'll be in that top 25 RPI conversation. But I can guarantee you that no 1 seed is going to want to see the Cowboys come to town.
Yeah. How much does the committee factor in the conference tournament in seeding, do you think?
I think it depends. I think it's a sliding scale. For a team like Kansas, I don't think there's going to be much that they can do to improve or hurt their resume at this point. Same with West Virginia. I think they're both safely in that hosting conversation right now, and losses on Friday won't really impact that. Arizona State, I think, is the team that can probably improve its standing the most by winning on Friday and potentially Saturday, just because of where their RPI started this week at 48 and where it could end up. They moved up 5 spots for beating Cincinnati last night to 43. And the more that they do that, if they win again today and get into the 30s, then you're starting to talk about, okay, well, is Arizona State actually going to be a 2 seed instead of a 3 seed now? So there's a little bit of stuff that can happen this week, but from that standpoint, there's not a ton that's left on the table.
West Virginia's won 10 of 11. Oklahoma State, since April 21st, they are 13-3. Circling back to Oklahoma State, you mentioned some bumps in the road. Was that injury related? Like, what were those bumps, and how have they cleaned them up?
Yeah, I mean, the first bump was losing Hunter Watkins in the fall, right? That's your Friday starter. You're anticipating getting a lot from him, and he tears his ACL in a pitching fielding drill, and all of a sudden you have to scramble and find a new replacement. Hudson Barrett was excellent in that role until he got hurt. And now he's coming back and starting to fill that role again. He threw over 90 pitches yesterday, which is what they wanted to see from him as he kind of works his way back to full strength. But then there was just, as you scramble as a pitching staff, things kind of get a little difficult there. We saw that from UCF at times this season. We definitely saw that from TCU at times this season as well. And so you get into weekends and guys are maybe moved up a slot in roles they weren't expected to be in. And so you start to drop a couple games. I think back to that weekend where they got swept by UCF early in Big 12 play and thought, wow, okay, well, I think Oklahoma State's got a pretty talented roster, but they haven't quite put it all together yet. Well, fast forward 2 months now, guys got healthy, they got more confident, and they've started to put it all together.
Who are some players to watch for these next couple of days in the Big 12 tournament?
I'm going to be really interested to see who Arizona State starts on the mound today. They went with Cole Klecker yesterday. He's a guy that transferred in from TCU, has had an excellent year for them, especially in Arizona this year. I believe he's got a sub-3 ERA in the state of Arizona this year. Cole Carlone is a guy that's a little banged up, and he was supposed to be available yesterday, wasn't. Willie Bloomquist said he might be available today. They're going to check. So that's the kind of thing that I'm really interested in, is how healthy is Arizona State, especially from a Cole Carlone perspective.
All right, Jamie, who's your pick to win the Big 12 tournament?
Gosh, it's going to be 2 great baseball games today. I think West Virginia is playing at an incredibly high level right now. I think Oklahoma State's playing at an incredibly high level right now. So I'm going to say that Oklahoma State and West Virginia are the 2 teams that win today. And then that matchup on Saturday is going to be electric, but I'm going to give the edge to West Virginia just because of their pitching. You have a guy like Chanson Cole, you have Dawson Montesa, who hasn't thrown yet. Reese Bassinger hasn't thrown yet for the Mountaineers as well. And if there's a team that has the pitching to be able to slow down Oklahoma State at all, I think it's West Virginia right now. So I'm going to go with the Mountaineers.
How many NCAA tournament teams are out of the Big 12? Is it going to be 5?
I think it'll still be 7. It's a pretty soft bubble this year. We haven't seen as many bid stealers as anticipated. The top 6 in the Big 12 are certainly in, right? Cincinnati on up in the standings are certainly in. The question is TCU, like we've talked about the last couple of weeks. And despite their loss to Kansas State on Wednesday, the way that the bubble is shaping up, I think they're still relatively safe for right now. That could change over the next couple of days, but I think right now the Frogs are in.
And then last thing for me, Jamie, you made your pick in terms of the Big 12 tournament, but when you look at how everybody's playing, these 4 teams left, who's built for a deeper run in the NCAA?
I'm going to go with my same pick and say West Virginia. When you look at the balance that they have from the pitching staff to the bats, they can create offense in a lot of different ways. We talked with Steve Sabins after their game yesterday. They played a lot of small ball. They moved guys over with sacrifice bunts. They hit things just on the ground, found holes and got it done that way yesterday. But they can also hit for power. They can hit gap to gap. And they're just a really versatile offense. So I like the way that they're playing right now. I like their ability to adjust to what the game demands. And again, Oklahoma State, I think, is really rolling right now. And when you have a team that just is confident, like TCU in 2023, right? They hit a lot of bumps in the road in the regular season, got hot and confident at the right time, made a run all the way to Omaha. I see a lot of that same potential in Oklahoma State right now.
Wow. Jamie, love your stuff. How do people find you at Base 12 Sports?
You can find me base12sports.substack.com, Flyover League podcast as well, and then I'm on all social medias as Frog Preacher.
Oh, man, we appreciate your coverage, and we've got you on record. West Virginia, that's the pick. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much for hopping on with us.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Jamie Plunkett, Big 12 baseball insider, Base 12 Sports. The Flyover League is his podcast. Also covers TCU for 24/7. Breaking down the Big 12 baseball tournament. 2 games. Later on, it's down to Oklahoma State and Kansas and West Virginia and Arizona State. Just looked at the latest bracketology. Jamie said he thinks 7 get in. It's got Kansas hosting. It's got West Virginia hosting. It's got Oklahoma State as a 2 seed. Cincinnati as a 2. TCU as a 3. Like the Big 12 looks to be very well represented when the bracket comes out.
And where's Arizona State?
Arizona State is a 3 seed.
Interesting.
In Tuscaloosa.
And we just heard Jamie say that Arizona State had the most to gain from this weekend. And it sounds like Kansas doesn't have a shot to be a super regional host as well. So we'll see.
Big games on deck this weekend on the Diamond. All right, coming up next, we wrap up the week before the 3-day weekend with This Could Have Been an Email. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. Heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Pressure again off the edge. Wigman has Koziel. He's got room to run. Touchdown!
Great protection. Jump ball for his tight end. And he reeled it in. Wow. How about Tanner Koziel? Tanner Koziel on that play. Goes up in the middle of 3 defenders.
Oh, nice.
To the end zone. The tight end, Koziel. Touchdown, Houston.
True 6'7", he blinked, he didn't blink and said, absolutely he is. And when you've got that against a guy who, although isn't short at 6 foot, in Marquise Groves Killebrew, 6 foot 179, the red shirt junior transfer is no match for a guy 6'7", 257. You got reach on him, you got size on him, and a quarterback that can put it right on the spot. That's outstanding football.
Looking for 6 instead of 3. Wigman, touchdown! His favorite target, Tanner Koziel.
That one to the flat. He's going to be the crosser versus man coverage. Gotta double team this guy everywhere on the field.
Wigman back in the end zone. Tanner Koziel, 6'7", sure. What are you doing tonight?
What a throw, what a catch. Tanner Koziel gets a soft cushion from KJ Pickett.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, wrapping up the work week with you on a Friday, exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Later on today, the Big 12 Power Hour. Kansas State is the team that we highlight during the Power Hour, the post-spring breakdown of the K-State Wildcats. That's at 2 o'clock Eastern and 1 o'clock Central Time. Our guest during that hour will be Barrett Brooks, who joined us today. Had some great Bill Snyder stories. Played at K-State back in the 90s, was a second-round NFL draft pick, which he parlayed into a 9-year NFL career. And then at 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Central, we go through the best at each position series, highlighting running back, quarterback. We each, Artie and I, have our top fives in the Big 12, specialists as well. And then the road to Arlington will replay at 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central Time, right here on the channel. And then on Monday, it is Memorial Day Monday. No show live, but we'll have a ton of our recent guest interviews from the last couple of weeks with the commissioner, Brett Yormark, who just joined us this past Wednesday, and then Oklahoma State women's basketball coach J.C. Hoyt, K-State men's basketball coach Casey Alexander, the new coach at Cincinnati, Jared Calhoun, will play Barrett Brooks again, and then Oklahoma State quarterback Drew Mestemaker will be joining us. We'll also have Road to Arlington's for West Virginia, UCF, and then Kansas again on Monday, going through each and every Big 12 school, answering a bunch of different questions. But each and every Friday, we wrap it up with This Could Have Been an Email. The most overblown, overhyped stories of the week. Ari, what is your number one This Could Have Been an Email?
Yeah, I mean, this some stories needed breaking news banners. This needs to reply all. Aaron Rodgers' retirement announcement. So, thank God it's not going to take long this next offseason to tell us that he's going to retire. I can guarantee you we'll do the same dance next offseason. Will he or won't he? But he did announce that this will be his last season. It remains to be seen if that's the case. So he announced he's retiring at the end of a season that hasn't started yet, and we get 17 months of coverage for a conclusion that wasn't news. Way to go, Aaron Rodgers. He is the president of the This Could Have Been an Email Club.
He was our This Could Have Been an Email last week, too.
He's been recurring on this segment because most of his announcements could have been an email.
Did he announce on the Pat McAfee show? Because that's the only place that he communicates.
No, that's the show that he made that show famous, but now he's no longer needed for that show because he's no longer relevant nationally. He's trying to poke his head above water so that he can prove his relevance. Aaron, you're not relevant anymore. You're an afterthought in the NFL and haven't been for 5 to 6 years. But so glad you're finally going to retire after this year. Good luck, and hopefully you make it through the year healthy. Fingers crossed.
All right, my This Could Have Been an Email would be SGA flops. People losing their minds over SGA flopping on every single field goal attempt in the NBA playoffs. Everybody's losing their mind. Welcome to the NBA. SGA flopping each and every night, according to many NBA fans, would be my email. Dude's averaging 32 points, shooting 55% from the field in the playoffs, almost 7 assists per game. I'm sure you've seen the highlights. Level of annoyance on SGA flopping.
Yeah, subject line, NBA players accused of flopping, and then a long list of players that are accused of flopping. This could have been an email. The Kevin Hart roast. Man, we are a sensitive bunch. It's a roast, people. The amount of upset people about jokes made during the Kevin Hart roast makes me cringe at what these used to be, because they used to be funny and they used to be a lot worse. So my subject line would be, comedian says something edgy at roast.
This was the Netflix special?
Yeah. Comedians say edgy things at roast. It's a roast, people. What are we doing? Hey, don't watch.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
The amount of people that are entitled to being offended and upset by things when really just the alternative is to not watch. That is an option. You have the option to not watch. It's a roast, for crying out loud.
Did you watch it?
No.
It's just the reaction?
I'm not paying $50 a month for Netflix.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I can, watch a million murder documentaries that people are just infatuated with.
Love a great murder.
The latest one about the crazy girl who crashed her car going 100 miles per hour and killed her boyfriend. Like, the amount of stuff I'm now seeing on social media over that, like, really? Like, we have to make this dumbass famous? Seriously, like, that's all she is. Oh, no, it's much deeper than that. No, it's not.
17-year-old girl in Stonebridge, Ohio, slammed her vehicle with her boyfriend and his best friend.
I'm sure you love it.
Into a brick wall at 100 miles an hour. She got convicted of murder.
Yeah, the murder porn on Netflix knows no bounds.
Yeah.
So no, I don't pay for Netflix, so therefore I didn't watch the Kevin Hart roast. But I could have anticipated this the way that it would go. Like, these weren't even that edgy of jokes. Like, some of the roast jokes weren't even that bad, and it's a freaking roast. The idea of a roast is you're supposed to, like, outdo the last comedian in terms of just edgy, offensive stuff. It's a roast, people.
Were the jokes any good?
There were a few.
Okay. Well, we got that. I keep seeing it in the top 10. You've got to watch this Kevin Hart roast, but I don't really have any interest in it either. All right, my last, this could have been an email. Hits home. It would be subject line, wife hurts foot, husband in shambles. Because we've got the boot. Wife has a stress fracture. We're going on, about 24 hours in the boot, 6 to 8 week timeline. I'm driving her everywhere, running around the house like a crazy person to make sure that she has everything she needs. She's basically bedridden. So I'm trying to come up with ideas to get her back in the game, off the IR, back on the court. Okay? The wheelchair is just too obvious, right? I could wheel her around in that. Tried an office chair from home. Got some pretty good speed on that. But to get her off the ground, I'm thinking like strapping a leaf blower to her back, seeing if we can get a couple of feet in the air, get her zipping around. The crutches just feel way too risky. But now I'm concerned because she's so much favoring the injured foot that she's going to injure the other foot, and we're going to have 2 bad feet. That could sideline her for 6 months.
So the question here is, could this have been an email?
How do we heal?
That's not an email. It's an open-ended question with lots of responses.
The email is wife hurts foot, husband in shambles.
Got it. And then the email is what you just said?
Yeah, that's the body.
Tons of questions. I mean, I'm just saying, like, you got a lot going on there. I don't know if this could have been an email.
That's the body of the text.
But good luck with that.
Here's the full blog post on how we recover from this injury.
The big thing is, has her injury slowed her Instagram consumption?
I would say probably not, because if she's bedridden, there's got to be a lot of time. Although, actually, she's reading a lot of books.
Good for her.
So I'd say it's a combo. Yeah, took her to the library last night, dropping off stuff, picking up stuff. It's a whole thing.
Why do you sound more like a caretaker for an 87-year-old? Yeah, I'm wheeling around the house. We got a boot for her. I took her to the library last night. She was watching Murder, She Wrote.
I have the 87-year-old mind. She has the 87-year-old body.
Oh.
Something's always going on.
That'll play well in the house. I'm not going to cut that up and send it directly to your wife. I'm the 87-year-old in mind. She's got the 87-year-old
body. She's very fragile. She's very fragile.
I didn't take that any other way. There's no other way to take that. I'm going to let you dig your own grave. One thing that couldn't have been an email is actually one of the more interesting stories. So, I don't know how much you pay attention to EPL, English Premier League Soccer. So they've had the end of their season, and now we've reached the point of relegation, which, by the way, would love relegation in American sports. It would be incredible. It's never going to happen, but it would be amazing. So the way that it works in relegation is from the second league, the top 2 teams move up, and then there's basically a playoff to finish out who that third team will be. And one of the teams that was in the playoff is Southampton. But Southampton got caught before their playoff game filming their opponent. Yes, I know what you're thinking. No, Bill Belichick.
I was going to say, they got Belichick.
So they were kicked out of the playoff for admitting to unauthorized filming of opponents' training sessions. And what's amazing is they've now found out, like, as they showed the guy that was in the stadium filming, like, other teams like, oh, yeah, we've seen him before. We've seen him. Come to find out, like, yeah,
they're around.
It's been happening all year. They've been doing this. So, I mean, they're going to be punished going into next season, and they were on the precipice of potentially being upgraded into the English Premier League. So, you think about in football, we see this a lot with Connor Stallions, with Bill Belichick, right? Like, you're always looking to expose the edges in sports, and Europe is no different.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's a crazy story.
Like, we've seen this guy. Yeah, we've seen that guy around. Oh, he's been filming us? Oh, okay, no big deal.
Yeah, filming formations. Also, the other funny part about this is apparently in the places where he was filming, they lost every one of those games.
Wait, they're not even good?
No, they are. I mean, they're good enough to be in that tournament to try to jump up into that top tier.
Okay.
But in the particular, like in the actual games in which they were, the teams have come in like, yeah, we saw that guy. They lost all those games.
That's amazing. T-Change, you got it? This could have been an email?
I totally do. And it involves the other president of this could have been an email club, LeBron James.
Oh.
So the Lakers have been out of the playoffs for, 2 weeks now? And LeBron says the reason the Lakers got swept, ultimately, if we're being completely honest, we were out-talented.
I'm really old. I'm not as talented as I used to be.
Yeah, that's quite a deep dive, LeBron. Did you do some film watching and uncover that? Like, breaking news.
Headline, they were better.
Yeah, subject.
Yeah.
More talented team wins best of 7 series.
And on top of that, the Lakers got swept. So, I mean.
That's amazing. My last, this could have been an email.
Dynamite drop in there, LeBron. Dynamite drop in.
The SEC just can't stop talking. Sark, Georgia president. Headline, we piss excellence. We are the SEC. All right? We don't lose.
Subject line, another hypothetical championship for the SEC. Chuck, and another hypothetical championship for the SEC.
If we played our 2s and 3s, we'd go undefeated. But we can't go undefeated with our 1s.
Yeah. But we went 60 and 61 with our 1s in a decade of the Big 12. We were off the rails.
That league's not any good because we're no longer in it.
And by the way, thank God they aren't. Good riddance, Texas. They continually remind the Big 12 of how great it is that they're not in the Big 12 anymore.
60 and 61. Over a decade stretch in the Big 12. Went through multiple coaching staffs.
Multiple athletic directors.
Sark, who made these comments, kind of taking shots at Texas Tech.
Not kind of. No kind of about it. Taking shots more at the Big 12 than Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Certainly at Texas Tech.
Is he on the hot seat if they don't make the playoff this year?
If they don't make the playoff, yeah, I would say so.
Like back-to-back preseason top 5, Taman says.
Yes.
But believe it or not, he will have excuses for if they don't. Oh, we played such a tough schedule.
How warm is his seat, T-Chains?
I'd say right now it's not very warm. It depends how. If Texas has 3 losses again this season, it's going to be pretty warm. For sure.
He's going into year 6.
Yeah. I mean, he took over a bad situation, and I mean, Texas was not good for a long time. But if they don't make the playoffs this year, 2 consecutive years in a row, especially in this Arch Manning era, it's hot.
Yeah, that seat gets real warm.
Yeah, and it gets hot in Texas.
You got one more?
I do not.
Okay. This just came across my timeline. 27 bricks of cocaine wash ashore in Galveston near Jamaica Beach on Tuesday. We're headed to Galveston in about 3 weeks.
Look out for the cocaine.
27 bricks. That could be a problem. It's got me a little nervous.
So did somebody misplace it? Was it washed ashore as part of the cruise that had
Yeah, wash ashore is that's interesting phrasing. A lot of possibilities.
Well, and I guess the other thing that could have been an email is Ebola and hantavirus outbreaks on their way. It could have been a subject line. Look out for Ebola or the hantavirus.
We'll all get sick.
Body of the email. Hello, death.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I don't know how realistic this would be. Feels like a hantavirus epidemic is very unrealistic. And Ebola is like the common, but man, you turn on the news right now and you got to be afraid of Ebola and the hantavirus. Like it's in your backyard right now, this second. The fear factor on network news right now over the hantavirus and Ebola is at a fever pitch.
That's good. Hopefully overplayed. We'll find out.
Hopefully.
Right.
Stay tuned.
Yes, stay tuned. It could be real bad, actually, but we'll find out. So Brett Yormark will join us on Monday's show with J.C. Hoyt and Casey Alexander, Jared Calhoun, Barrett Brooks, Drew Mestemaker. That'll be on Monday because we will be taking Memorial Day off. So we are back live on Tuesday from 8 to 11 Eastern Time. You can always catch us via wherever you podcast, Apple, Spotify, right here, tune in on demand. We are Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, exclusively on TuneIn. For R.A. Timpkin, for T-Chains, our audio producer, Taman Turner, for Anthony Smith, behind the camera, our video producer for Big 12 Studios, I'm James Westling. Have an outstanding weekend. Enjoy what is hopefully nice weather wherever you may be, and we'll see you on Tuesday. We're out.